Welcome, everyone, to yet another edition of the Friday free-for-all mailbag. Best day of the week. Best day of the week. I'm Vince D'Addario. That's Ryan Roberts. We're here. We're going to take you all the way through, answer all your questions. You guys are leading the show. But this, Ryan, this one's a little bit different. This particular mailbag, there was some breaking news that took place earlier today, right around 11 o'clock. I'm sitting there scrolling through Twitter, and I'm like, sweet. Notre Dame's working hard, and they are being rewarded for that hard work with their recruiting class. So I will hand it over to you to kind of explain what that breaking news was, and then how we're going to kind of approach this Friday free-for-all mailbag just a little bit differently this week.
Yeah, I know the chat obviously is buzzing, and the message board's been buzzing, Twitter's been buzzing, because this is one that, for people that haven't seen yet, Notre Dame got a commitment from Logan Saldate, who is a very talented wide receiver out of Salinas, California, Palma High School. Was 50-something receptions, over 700 yards last year, averaged over 10 yards per rush as well. Was kind of a dynamic inside-out wide receiver for Palma last year, and was recently committed to your Oregon State as a wide receiver, obviously in the 2024 class. Was a player that I went back and listened to his commitment video because he committed on Memorial Day. He chose Oregon State over offers from Washington, Cal, and several others. Some really good schools. Oklahoma State, I believe, was in that conversation as well. And Notre Dame was able to make this flip happen. And obviously where we have been in Notre Dame, there's been a revolving question over the last couple of weeks. How is Notre Dame going to finish this wide receiver class? Who are they going to target? Who's their flavor? What type of player they're looking for? Well, they found it in Logan Saldate. And I don't want to, Vince, I don't want to tell you all about Logan's game, because we'll be able to, Brian Driscoll's working on a film breakdown that it's going to be on YouTube and all that great stuff. We're going to have several articles about Logan over the next couple of days. But I would love for the Irish Breakdown family to meet Logan Saldate now, who is behind stage and ready to come into the show to become official member of the Notre Dame family. So let's bring Logan onto the show. Everybody give him a warm welcome. We are now looking at the newest member of the Notre Dame 2024 recruiting class, joining one of the top classes in the cycle and the nation. Logan, congratulations, man. How's it feel?
Thank you. It feels amazing. I'm lost for words. My whole family's excited. Just a perfect day.
Well, and I appreciate you so much, Logan, because you gave me some of your time yesterday, even though you are being hit up by everyone and anyone that kind of wants the backstory on this, from Oregon State commits now to Notre Dame commits. Obviously, you made this decision, but this has been a very interesting process. So could you take us through a little bit of the timeline and how you first got to really know Notre Dame and how this has kind of trended to this point?
All right. So basically throughout my whole entire recruiting process, I never really heard from Notre Dame. And back when I played with Cooper Flanagan, who is now at Notre Dame as a tight end, I had one offer. I think it was a Cal. And I remember talking to him. I was like, man, Notre Dame would be a dream. Like, this is such a big school, super prestigious. But yeah, and then my recruiting process went on. Later on, committed to Oregon State a few weeks back. And I thought my recruiting process was done until Coach Bo followed me on Instagram. And even then, I was like, it's just a follow. Like, I'm not going to think much of it. Like, I'm already locked in with Oregon State. But then a few days later, we get it rolling a little bit. I get to talk with Coach Stuckey, Coach Parker. And they were definitely interested, but it really took a turn when they had me send videos of my route running, the whole entire route tree, verified my speed with a 40-yard dash. And then after seeing that, they were like, this is our guy. Like, we need him in our offense. So yeah, that's basically how it went down.
And let me give a little background to that, Logan, because it's fascinating. Obviously, Notre Dame they're a national brand, right? So they're doing a national search. They have a few wide receivers that they're taking a look at, but you're the guy that really popped up to them and said, this is the guy that ultimately ends up in the class. You mentioned a connection you have to the program already. Obviously, you know Cooper Flanagan. First question, because I got to know Cooper very well. Have you gotten a text from Cooper today? A little bit of a congratulations from Coop. And second question, you got that one already?
Yeah.
And second question is for you. What is it about Notre Dame, right? Because there's a lot of schools that have recruited you. There's a lot of schools that I'm sure have been trying to flip you to continue to recruit you. Why is Notre Dame the spot that was able to make this happen? Why were they the pick?
I mean, it's just a level above all the other schools. I mean, not only in football, but on the education side. And it wasn't an easy decision. It took a lot of family talks. So basically, from a parent's perspective, you want your kid to go to Notre Dame like it's almost a dream.
Yep.
And if we passed up on this opportunity, we feel like we would have kicked ourselves in the butts later on. So yeah, I don't know. Notre Dame is just special to us, I guess. Like I haven't even seen the campus, nor met the coaches in person, but just talking to them for the few weeks that I did, it feels like I'm already part of the family, which I am.
Hey, Logan, there's been a lot of talk about Coach Stuckey and how he does on the recruiting trail and the relationships that he builds. It's been a shorter relationship, obviously, with you, but what kind of stuck out to you with him and then maybe Coach Parker as well? You said you kind of started a relationship with both of those guys over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I liked it because, I mean, all the other coaches that I talk to from other schools, it's always football, right, on the phone. I get on the phone with Coach Stuck and Parker. They're like, okay, yeah, we like your film. Like, you're obviously a great player, or else we wouldn't be talking to you. So let's get to know each other like family, like religion, all of that stuff. So it wasn't always just football. It was more getting to know each other and like just hobbies and just normal talks, which made me feel really good about it.
Well, Logan, and I know you already mentioned it, but you'll be visiting obviously on an official basis for the Tennessee State game, first home game of the season for Notre Dame. Want to hear about what your expectations are, because usually, obviously guys take the visit first, then they commit, but you obviously couldn't hold up on that, right? You wanted to be a part of the family. Yeah. What are your expectations being able to go there? Because I know that you've been to Michigan State before because you have a couple family members, including your brother, who is an athlete at Michigan State already, a wrestler. But take me through just your expectations to seeing Notre Dame and what you are just most excited about in that visit.
I'm not really sure what to expect, to be honest. Like, I've heard a lot about Notre Dame. Cooper's told me almost everything about it, the pros and the cons. So I'm just going to go over there with a great mindset. And I know they're going to have a weight room. Everybody's going to have a weight room. Like, I don't know. It's just going to be a fun experience. I mean, I know the football team's going to be good. Definitely going to be a good crowd. So I'm excited for that. Did you
appreciate the look into the program from Cooper, both because you said positives and negatives, right? Pros and cons. I mean, it seems like in recruiting a lot of times they're just pushing the pros, but to kind of have that other side of the coin as well, was that helpful to you since you've never been on campus, obviously? And I assume you trust his opinion and being able to see kind of both sides of it.
Definitely. That was a big part of it. And it wasn't even only Cooper. Like, the coaches were being super straight up. Like, it's going to be tough your freshman year. Everyone's going to struggle. The school is extremely hard at Notre Dame. Like, you're going to have to be locked in. And those are some things that you need to hear. Like, it's not always going to be good. You're going to have the ups and downs. So definitely, it was definitely good to hear.
Well, Logan, I need to ask about your parents, man, because I know your family's obviously probably super excited about this whole situation. I already have heard a little bit about your emotions. I've heard the word surreal that you've said to me yesterday and just a great moment. But what's your family like today, man? Getting to enjoy this type of moment with you.
I mean, lost for words again. Like, my dad is working and my mom is working. So I'll get to see them later on in the day. But they already called me, congratulating me and everything. But I do live with my grandparents too. I already know they're super happy. So yeah, I'm gonna go downstairs and have some breakfast with them later.
Nice. Well, we're gonna have a film breakdown of you later on the YouTube channel from our buddy Brian Driscoll over here at Irish Breakdown. But I have actually just gotten off the phone a couple hours ago with Jeff Carnazzo, who is your head coach at Palma. And a couple of the cool little tidbits that he told me, because he said that the minute he saw you, he knew you were going to be a guy, like you were going to be that type of player. But he mentioned a couple things about your game that he really loves. He mentioned best blocker I've ever been around. He takes pride in it. And he also mentioned this is a quote, the best route runner I've ever seen on the high school level. That's a direct quote from Coach Carnazzo.
Yes,
so highlight a little bit of what you feel like makes you a special football player, man. Like, what is Notre Dame ultimately getting at you?
Unselfish player, to be honest. Like, a receiver needs to block. You never know if the running back's gonna flip the field and come back your way. So you always have to be ready for that. But on the receiver standpoint, route running, I feel like a lot of people are gonna compare me to Rico, my dog, Flores, but because I know he has great routes. But I think like my routes, top tier. So that's what I think the best part of my game is, to be honest. And my speed, I put up a verified speed 10.8. And I'm just super athletic. I know how to be in the moment and just move off of tackles and just play the game.
Well, and you were the second leading long jumper in the state this year in the state of California with over 24.5-foot long jump. Is that something you take seriously, Logan, or is that just kind of more of a testament to your athleticism?
I mean, I might have to take it seriously now, but that was like my first year. I was just like, man, I'm gonna long jump, And then I ended up going to state. I wanted to take first, obviously, but I'll save that for next year.
That's incredible. I wish that there was there's not many people out there that could just mess around and jump 24 feet in the long jump. So a lot to look forward to say the least, man. My last question before I see if Vince has anything for you, Logan, because we want to be very cognizant of your time, is I want to hear where the competitiveness comes from you, man, as far as a little bit of your background, because I watch your film and you could very easily just rest on your athleticism because you're very athletic, right? You run good routes, you're athletic. But I hear about the blocking. I see on film you playing outside at 5'11", 185 pounds, and winning at the catch point, winning 50-50 balls. Where does that competitiveness come from in your game?
That's a good question. I haven't really thought about that, but I will say, so I have an older cousin that played at San Jose State, and he's been training me like my whole entire life, and he was teaching me college level stuff when I was in like 6th grade and like from now. So I really already knew like blocking is important. Like the college coaches look at that when they're recruiting. So just I think he definitely played a big part in that. Just teaching me what's actually important, and it's not always just when you get the ball. You got to run your routes 100% even when you're not getting the ball. So that's what I would say. And just like growing up with my brother or in a wrestling family, watching him compete and never backing down to any challenges, working out when nobody's watching, like it's just little things like that just build up in your mind. And yeah.
What do you have as we let you get out of here, Logan? What do you have planned the rest of the day? You mentioned parents are at work. You'll be able to see them later, kind of get the emotions out and everything. What does the rest of the day look for you, man? How are you going to celebrate?
Man, I'm just going to set my phone down for a little bit, have some family time. But I think we're going to go to a nice steakhouse. So
nice.
This should be good.
That's awesome. Hey, man, congratulations. I know your folks are at work right now bragging about their boy and what his future is going to look like. And all their future trips to South Bend to see you ball out at Notre Dame Stadium, man. We're super excited for you, Logan.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Logan. And trust me, man, I won't be bothering you today. No more text messages for me. Right? You go chill out.
You're all good.
All right, brother. Congratulations. We'll talk soon, okay?
Sounds good.
All right, everybody. That was Logan Saldate committing to the University of Notre Dame from Oregon State, doing his thing. And great pickup from Notre Dame based on everything that was going on in their recruiting class and the decommitment, and they didn't waste any time. They found their guy, and their guy loves Notre Dame. And if you couldn't tell from that interview, he loves himself some Irish. And I have a feeling, just based on his personality and the film that I've watched, the Irish are going to love him as well. So this sounds like a great match, and I could not be more excited for him and for the 24 class as well.
Well, Vince, I mean, I wasn't expecting, just kind of talking to Brian about everything after Isaiah Canyon decommitted from Notre Dame. I wasn't expecting them to be in a rush, and I don't think they were in a rush. I just think they saw this kid. They saw what he could bring to the table. They found out about him. They found out all the personal stuff, and they're just like, this is our guy. Like, what are we waiting for, right? So, yes, I think it's a tremendous fit for Notre Dame. I'll be very honest. Like, there's some kids at times that Notre Dame recruits that I watch, and I'm just like, okay, I kind of see it, but not fully. I saw this kid immediately. I'm like, yeah, that kid's good. And then you see the track times, and you're like, yeah, he can play football at the University of Notre Dame. There's no doubt. And fascinating backstory. Only been on the radar a few weeks.
Yeah.
And he told me that he never really had a dream school per se, but he's like, basically his coach said the only team that I think he would have flipped for was the University of Notre Dame. So just kind of seeing this whole situation, man, I think that this was a great pickup for the University of Notre Dame. There's no doubt about it.
I will bring up the question that I'm sure other people are going to have because they always do. I believe I saw he's a 3-star.
Love it.
Is he underrated? Does it matter? All of those questions that people are going to ask who just focus on the recruiting rankings and all of those things, Ryan.
Well, me and Brian are both very opinionated, right? So we actually did.
That's why I'm asking you.
We didn't talk about Logan at all as far as we talked about him a little bit as far as like what we see on film, but we didn't say like what's the grade, what's the star rating, that type of thing. And I saw Brian had put out that he thinks that this is a top 250 caliber player in the country, a 4-star recruit, and I agree completely. I do. Yeah. Again,
okay.
I also think the fit makes a lot of sense, Vince. I mean, the one thing that we talk about when Isaiah Canyon was committed to the class was you had 3 tall receivers that were more of outside receivers, though. Like Micah Gilbert can do some stuff in the slot. Cam Williams can do some stuff in the slot at times, but they are traditionally more outside receivers. The one thing I love about Logan Saldate fitting into this class is you still have Cam Williams at 6'1.5" outside receiver. You still have Micah Gilbert as a 6'2" boundary receiver that can play some slot. But then you have this young man at 5'11", 185. He can play inside very easily. Right. So I think he fits exceptionally well. So, yes, I think that he is underrated. I don't think the star ranking matters as much as people act like it does at times, because on the field, I see a 4-star kid, and that's all I really care about at the moment.
That's all I care about, too.
And clearly Notre Dame agrees, so that's all that matters right now.
Absolutely. So, once again, that was Logan Saldate, Notre Dame's newest commitment to the 24 class. Notre Dame didn't waste any time filling that spot up, and I think it's a great fit. And that was a fun interview. So if you're just joining us now, make sure you check that out. Check out that interview a little bit later on, and see what a great personality and what a great kid is joining this class, because that was the first time I've spoken with him, and I was really impressed. I was really impressed with him, and he's genuine. I mean, his excitement and his love for Notre Dame is obviously genuine, and that speaks to the power of Notre Dame, that he has never stepped foot on campus. And yet he's like, yep, this is the place for me. No doubt about it.
Awesome note, too, as we wrap this up, Vince, and get into the mailbag. Awesome note about him is that Coach Cardinazzo, who I'll have a coach piece on him either tonight or tomorrow morning, he has been coaching at Palma for 24 years, which is a good school out there, by the way. They play like the Sarahs of the world, the Salinas of the world. It's good level of football. It's not quite the modern day, realm, but it's still very good football. In 24 years, there was only one football player who has ever played varsity as a freshman, Vince. You want to guess who that is?
Logan?
That's Logan Saldate, the only one. From the moment he said he saw him, he's like, that kid's a varsity football player. That's going to be a Division I football player one day. So, yes, this is a kid that comes from a good program that's put out guys like Drew Dahlman, who was a starting center at Stanford for several years, now playing with the Atlanta Falcons. They put out a lot of good football players, and I think Logan's the next in that line.
Awesome. All right.
Whoa. Vince is so excited that his mic just went out somehow. I don't know.
Yeah. Apparently my mic just.
You're back. I don't know.
I don't know what.
I can, but I don't know if it's breaking up.
I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Maybe you want to plug and unplug.
All right. I'm going to go out and come back. Go ahead.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Go ahead and start us up, brother.
I got you. So that is the commitment of Logan Saldate. We'll have a lot more on that over the next few days. Obviously, we're going to have at least 4 articles on him today, one from his perspective, obviously the commit piece, commit impact, and then his coach piece that will be coming out as well. So hope you all enjoyed that conversation with Logan, a little bit of a breakdown, and we'll have more on him over the next couple of days. But we're going to get into mailbag next. We already have a bunch of mailbag questions starred, so please continue to throw those in the chat for me and Vince. MB in the front would be very much appreciated. But that's going to do it for this commitment section of the Irish Breakdown podcast. Vince, mailbag time? We ready?
Let's do it, man. It's Friday. We gotta answer some questions. It's Friday. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's do it, man. So let's start us off here.
All right, Michael Pate says, do you think NIL has had an overall net positive or negative for the Notre Dame football program?
I think that there could. I think it could be a little bit of both. I know that people obviously want. I mean, they always want the absolutes, right, Vince? Of like it's one side or the other. But right. I'm a big believer in there's usually some middle grounds to these types of conversations. I think that it's had some net negatives in the sense that I think that you would have had a better. I think you would have had a better chance with a couple football players, right? Like if that wasn't a conversation for Dante Moore, for instance, last year, then Dante Moore might end up at Notre Dame. Keon Keeley probably goes down to Alabama still, but there's Peyton Bowens of the world. Like some of these kids that don't end up at Notre Dame, I think they would have a better chance of being able to get them to come. But I also think that one, that does weed out the guys that are just in it for the wrong reasons. Sure. I think that is a positive. And I think the other net positive is that it has allowed Notre Dame to shine for some kids in the instance of, you just heard Logan Saldate talk about it. They talk about the pros and the cons of Notre Dame, right? And I think being transparent and being real is how you grow a real foundation to a program. So I think there's some net positives. I think there's some net negatives to what NIL has done, but I don't think it's an overwhelming one way or the other. Sure. I think that there's somewhere in between on this, Michael, in my opinion.
Well, and it's almost like you have to split NIL into two different parts. Yes. So you've got what people call like the entrance fee, right? Like the blank checks, right? And we know Notre Dame's not going to get involved with that. And so if you want to call that a negative, okay, that's fine, but they have chosen to not be a part of that. The other side of that is the NIL opportunities that the current players are receiving. And that kind of flies under the radar a little bit, because there's all these opportunities that these guys are having. Now, I'm not saying they're all pulling in 6 or 7 figures or something crazy like that, but they are having opportunities to go out into the community and do some things. And there's other NIL opportunities that these guys are participating in that just aren't on the forefront of the media. And so we don't know about it, man. I'll tell you what, when I was in college, if I had an opportunity to make a couple $1,000 here, a couple $1,000 there, like, I'd have felt like a rich man, you know what I mean? And I get where everybody's coming from, but every scholarship player on the roster has had an opportunity at Notre Dame to earn some money. And I think in that vein, I think they're doing it right, but that isn't publicized a ton. You know what I mean? And so I think if you would have asked the players, I think that the majority of them are probably pretty happy. The ones that are on the roster, they're having all these opportunities. It's just what gets the publicity is the blank check stuff. And Notre Dame's not going to do that. And they're never going to do that, at least not in the overt way. You know what I mean? Right. So it just depends on the take you have, I guess.
Which I don't really consider NIL, to be honest, Vince, right? Exactly. Like pay-for-play is a very separate thing from NIL, to your point.
And it shouldn't be.
Yeah. I really think that, I mean, Notre Dame still needs to improve, obviously, the NIL pitch and the selling point and being more vocal about what they're doing to help the kids. There's no doubt about that. But I really don't think there's a overlying, we're going to, we can't fathom staying in the conversation with the big boys because we can't give them this X, Y, or Z type of thing.
Right.
So
right.
I just don't think that I think it's a little bit overblown. Shout out real quick before we get to the next question, Vince. We had Chase Satellite Saldate, who of course is a wrestler at Michigan State, who hopped in the chat and said Logan going to go crazy in the slot. I agree, Chase. I think it's a great fit. You have Micah Gilbert outside in the class. You have Cam Williams on the outside in the class. And then you have a guy like Logan working in the slot. I think it's a tremendous fit just from a fit perspective. Like, it just makes total sense to me.
Yep, that's awesome. And congratulations to your little brother, Chase. Like, this is exciting for your family, man.
Congratulations to the whole family too,
Yeah.
man. They got 2 kids that have gone. Well, one that's at Michigan State, one that's graduated from Michigan State, and one that's going to go to the University of Notre Dame. The Saldate family's doing pretty well.
Seriously, sign me up for that kind of success. Like that yeah. I'm all about it. That would be great. Yeah. That would be awesome. That's awesome for that family.
No doubt. All right. So thank you so much for that, Michael, as we continue through in the podcast. It's a great way to start because I think it's a really important conversation to have. We had Irish Gordian and not.
Yeah, it says, what is the over-under on flips Notre Dame is able to make if they make it to the playoff this year?
It's such a tough question. I think that for me, you could tell me that Notre Dame is going to have some kids that are more interested in Notre Dame, right? So the potential for flip happens, Irish Gordy, not.
Sure.
I just think, but like today we're at 22 commits in the class, right? Notre Dame's only going to take about 25, 26 kids in this class. So we're winding down here. So unless we get to a point where there's a couple of decommits in the class or something like that, I just don't think the need's going to be there, right? I think that the impacts, and I know Brian said this in the past, and I agree with him, the impact on Notre Dame having a really good team in 2025 is in 2023, is the 2025 recruiting class. I think that's where you start seeing those waves. More of those high priority kids, the guys that love the rankings, right? Like those high 4-star, 5-star caliber players that have some interest in Notre Dame. If they see on-field success, that's where the impact truly has. So I don't think that it's going to be too much in the 2024 class. Sure. I think it's going to be more 2025.
I mean, there's a chance you might get 1 or 2, but Notre Dame, I think, is pretty happy with where, as we sit here on July 21st, I think they're pretty happy with their 24 class. I mean, could there be a guy here or a guy there that, if they decided to flip, Notre Dame would take them? I'm sure there are. And I'm sure that you could think of a couple of names where that would be the case, right?
Yep.
But you're right. I think it's going to be the 25 class. And overall, from the picture that's been drawn for me by you and Brian, the 25 class has the potential to be absolutely electric. It's a deeper class overall. Notre Dame is already out in front on a lot of elite guys. Like the 25 class could be an impact class from what it sounds like. And you're going to the playoff in 23. Those 25 kids are going to be getting in line, and Notre Dame's going to have their pick of the litter, it sounds like.
It's incredible, honestly, Vince, because for all the negativity that there is surrounding, some recruiting efforts at times, the 2025 class, man, it's hard not to get really excited about what Notre Dame's doing early on. And again, if they follow that up with a really good season this year, Notre Dame's 2025 class has a chance to be special. I'll put it out there. It has a chance to be a very, very special class. It's about now backing it up on the field.
Yep.
100%.
Absolutely.
We had a question now from Domer Grizz. What's up, Domer?
Nice. Who's the better college player, Quentin Nelson or Zach Martin? Martin is having the better NFL career so far, but I wouldn't have expected that. Now, there's a 4 or 5 year difference between these two, and Quentin Nelson has made 4 out of 5 Pro Bowls. So I feel like, yes, Zach Martin has had a more of a longevity. He's the best. He's technically, all right, what was the last thing that came out? He's the best guard in the NFL right now, and he's holding out for more money.
Madden, baby.
Yeah, like that's amazing. And he's taking that 99 overall, and he's like, I'm not going to OTAs. Like, so I get it. But
that's probably the first Notre Dame player to ever be a 99 overall in Madden, right?
That may be, actually, now that you mention it.
Like, who else would it even be? I mean, because Bryant Young was too late for Madden, right? So I don't know if he would even be a 99 in his heyday. Like,
that's a good point.
Tim Brown, maybe. I don't know.
That's a very good point. So I would say, as an answer to this question, the first part, I would say Quentin Nelson was the better college player.
Yes.
And Zach Martin, yes, he's had a better NFL career, but Nelson's career isn't over by any stretch of the imagination. So he had a down year last year. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. The line in Indy struggled all year, and he was part of that. I'd be the first one to admit it. But he made the Pro Bowl his first 4 years. So I think he's doing okay for himself as well. But Quentin Nelson is the answer for me.
Yes, I would agree 100%. Quentin Nelson is one of the more dominant football players in general that I've ever seen, not just from Notre Dame State. Like he is one of the best players of this past generation, like this generation that we're working through right here. I mean, he was fantastic. Zach Martin was obviously also a very good football player. There's a reason that he went top 20 in the NFL draft. He dominated the Senior Bowl. He had a decorated Notre Dame career. Quentin Nelson was the better college player, though. So far, Zach Martin has been the better NFL player. But to your points, Quentin Nelson has a chance to get it turned around. He had a dominant start to his career, a little bit of a down trot this past year. Can he get it back on track and start trending back upward? Very possible. But I think that for me, it's pretty easy. Quentin Nelson is the better college player, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say that Zach's career really took off because he was a tackle at Notre Dame, and then he moved inside in the NFL and just really kind of found his sweet spot. And he was playing tackle because that's what they needed him to do at Notre Dame. I mean, could he be a successful tackle in the NFL? Yeah, I think he could be. But they moved him inside because that's the sweet spot for Zach Martin, and he has just absolutely exploded from that point forward. So, he's doing his thing, man. And this is one of those deals where, like, you're good to go with either one if you want somebody on your team.
There's no doubt about that. Yeah. You want both of them, right? Like
Absolutely.
One at left guard, one at right guard. Like,
can you imagine what that would be like? I don't care who my two tackles and my center are. Like, we'll be okay.
Oh, man, it's like that. It's like that offensive line that had Ronnie Stanley and Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey. It's like, it's pretty good, man. It's decent. It's like that would be a very good NFL offensive line. So, yes. We had another question from Michael Pates.
All right. If you could pick 2 to 3 to reach their full potential for Notre Dame this season, who would they be? Which players, if they play their best, could have the biggest impact on Notre Dame winning a championship?
It's a great question, Michael. Great.
You're going to need more than 2 or 3, that's for sure.
Yes.
If you're going to win a championship. So I will say that part.
I think for me, maybe we'll just go one by one here, Vince, because there was one guy and I'm just trying to figure out the other two in my head. I think Riley Mills is one of those guys this year. I do, because I think that the interior defensive line is going to be good, right? It's going to be good. But is it going to be a difference-making defensive line? That's my biggest question. I expect the edge rushers to do enough from the Jordan Botellos and the transfer from Ohio State, whose name has escaped me for whatever, Jean Baptiste, and some of the other rotational players to be a really good defensive line, potentially. But I saw my question marks about who is the impact size inside. And we've heard a lot of great things about Riley Mills this offseason, now up to right around 300 pounds. We've seen flashes of really good, impressive athleticism for a guy his size, but can he be a consistent snap-to-snap based player? And I think that for me, if Riley takes a big step and he is a dude in 2023, that alters the outlook of Notre Dame's defense, in my opinion. So Riley Mills would be one for me, for sure.
I'll go to the other side of the ball, and I will say Tobias, because the way I'm looking at it is, okay, if everybody plays basically the same way they played last year or just takes that natural step forward, that kind of a thing, then I think who needs to be like take that extra step? I think that's Tobias. I think Tobias needs to be, and I've argued this throughout the week, that he needs to be that alpha wide receiver. Yeah. And I still think that Thomas is going to end up with more receptions, right? Because they're going to move him around. He's going to be kind of a go-to player on third down. Like, he's going to be maybe a bit of a safety net kind of a guy, but he's still going to make plays. Tobias needs to be that guy that stretches the field. He's that home run hitter. He's going to be the guy that leads the team in yards. He's going to be the guy that leads the team in average yards per catch. He's going to lead the team in touchdowns. Like, he needs to be the alpha in that regard. And so if you've got a guy like Tobias that can do that, and then you've got, JT doing his thing, and then whoever in the slot stepping up, whether it's Tyree, whether it's Greathouse, whatever, I think you're going to be really good to go. And I was thinking I was going to say Sam Hartman, but I'm not, because if he just repeats what he did at Wake Forest last year, this offense is going to be great. Yeah. You know what I mean? If he takes a step forward, they're going to be even better, obviously. Right. But I don't think he needs to for this team to compete at a high level. He just needs to repeat what he's done in the past.
I agree with you. I think that you need Sam Hartman to be at least as good as he has been at Wake Forest of his last 2 years. If he is, it's the best quarterback Notre Dame's had in several years. So
absolutely.
You're going to have a chance.
Yes.
I wide receiver is definitely one, Vince. Tobias would be the easy one for me. You need someone to become an alpha in that room, whether that is Jaden Thomas becoming an 80-catch, 900, 1,000-yard guy, or it's Tobias being the big play threat that can just threaten a defense everywhere. A sneaky guy that I think actually needs to take a step forward this year is Audric Estime. I think he needs to take a big step because Audric was really good last year, 900-something yards, 5.9 yards a carry. But there is going to be more of an emphasis on him being the guy. And we talked about it last year. There were some games where it seemed like he wore down a little bit when he was a little too many carries maybe in the fourth quarter, and some fumbles happen in the middle of the season. I think that he needs to take a step forward because although I think Jeremiah Love is going to be a dude, although I am really excited to see Jadarian Price and Jabron Payne and Devin Ford and all these cats, there's still a lot of uncertainty behind him. I mean, your leading rusher at the running back position from last season for Notre Dame had 2 carries for 5 yards in Jabron Payne. That's all you have coming back outside of Audric. So I think Audric needs to show that he could be the guy.
Sure.
And then if he shows that he could be the guy fully, then it's like, oh, now we can also sprinkle in all these great backs and really have a great, duo, trio of runners. And I think that's where the offense takes the next level is if Audric could be that guy, not just a good player, but a great player potentially.
Sure. Let's see. I'm going to go to the linebacker position, and I wanted to say Marist because I think I'm not going to, but I want to say Marist because if Jack, JD, and Marist play to the level that they are capable of playing, this linebacking core is going to be fantastic. And then you can rotate in Ziegler and you can rotate in Sneed, and that's a great linebacker rotation. But I'm not going to say Marist. I'm going to say Jalen Sneed. And here's why, because could he be a starter? Maybe. Could he be that key rotational guy that can come in, play a couple different positions? Yeah, and you're going to need that. Like, you need guys like that if you're going to be a championship level whatever, like fill in the blank, right? And so Brian and I were talking the other day about Sneed being that guy like in the nickel package or in the dime package. He comes in, rushes the passer, drops into coverage like that Bo Bauer kind of role, right? If he can excel in that role against the teams that are going to be throwing the ball all over the place, right? Like USC, potentially Clemson, like when he's out there and he's the guy in that package, if he can excel in that position, that's going to make this defense that much better. Because I think JD is going to take a step forward. I think he's going to have the best year of his career. I think Jack's going to take a step. He's going to be just fine. I mean, Marist is a complete question mark. I think we can all, agree with that. But if Sneed can take that step and hit his ceiling this year he's a third-year guy, right? Or is he a second-year guy? He's a third-year guy.
Second year.
Okay. If he can take that step up as a second-year guy in the rotation, doing his thing, just balling out in what he's asked to do, I think that could be really, really key to this defense.
I think the will linebacker position is a great answer, though, Vince.
Yeah.
I don't even think you even need to just say Marist. Like, you need that position to just be a lot better. I mean, think about it for years, because I know JD was a will his first year, and he had a pretty good season, but there was obviously some inconsistencies there. For the most part, the last few years of Will have not been good. I mean, Marist this past year, Shane Simon, obviously that experiment at Will was not very good a few years ago. So the Will linebacker position needs to be better. I'll have another sneaky one because I think that some people probably don't agree with the Audric Estime one, but I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball for my last pick. Cam Hart is one that I would point to and say take a step forward. Because yes, if Cam Hart is as good as he was last year, you're still going to have a dynamic cornerback duo.
Sure.
But if Cam can get near to a ceiling, then you are really offensively going to have to rethink your strategy of how you're going to attack this team, because you're going to have Benjamin Morrison. If Cam Hart plays up to his talent level, then I think that you're going to have to try to rethink things and change offensively how you're going to attack Notre Dame defense. So Cam Hart is one where I expect him to have a big step forward, and I'm hoping that he puts together a healthy season, man, because I think he's still really, really talented. But I really think that we have kind of undervalued Cam a little bit in the chat and by myself at times as well, of that Cam is a good player. Everybody knows that. But Cam's not as good as he can be. He still has a lot more upside, in my opinion. I think he can still be a star in the college level.
Absolutely. And he came back for a reason. Like he knows what's up, and he knows that he's got to make a name for himself more so than what he already has. Like we know who Cam Hart is. I think we know what he can be, but he hasn't done that on a consistent basis. Now, and I'm not saying it's because of him per se. I mean, he's had injuries that he's had to deal with, and a lot of adversity has come his way. But if he can get through the entire season healthy, across from Benjamin Morrison, what we think he's going to be able to do, yeah, he takes that to another level. That's going to be a special cornerback tandem for sure.
Yeah, that could be a conversation of top 5 cornerback duo in college football to maybe even the best cornerback duo in college football.
Yeah,
like that could be the difference.
My last one, since they asked for, I just want to get my last one. They asked for 3. I'm going to get my third one.
I'm sorry, I cut you off. That's my fault.
You're good, brother. You're good. Rocco Spindler. If he reaches his ceiling, I think this offensive line is going to be special. I really do. Now, if Andrew Kristofic is the guy at right guard, I have no qualms with who the offensive line is going to be and what they're going to be able to do, but they're going to be better if Rocco can prove that he can be as consistent as Andrew, but then his ceiling is higher. It just is. And that right side is not a liability. I shouldn't say liability because that's not the right word. That right side becomes a strength, right? Because I think the left side is going to be a strength with Billy Stroud and Joe All and Zeke Correll's over there. Like that's going to be a strength on the left side. The right side will be fine if Andrew is in there. They'll be fine, right? If Rocco reaches his potential, he reaches his ceiling, the right side is now something that you can use to your advantage. And that offensive line that takes that big step forward, they'll be able to run the ball when they want. They'll be able to throw the ball when they want. And this offensive line will be special. I'm talking if Rocco wins that position by doing all the right things, I'm talking Joe Moore Award finalist type offensive line. Absolutely.
I can see that. Because I think for me, the cool thing about Rocco is if Rocco does take that step, and by all accounts, Vince, from spring to summer, he's continuing his momentum to hopefully be able to be in that conversation. But Rocco's one of those guys where I look at the offensive linemen that are going to kind of be in the conversation, right? The Joe Waltz, Blake Fisher at a lower weight, Zeke Correll is kind of an undersized center. A couple of those guys are more finesse players. And not finesse in a negative way. It's just Joe Walt's a finesse player. It's not a negative, though, because he's a left tackle. I expect him to be a little bit more finesse.
Sure.
But is there a guy on the offensive line? I think Billy Stroud could be in this conversation as well, as far as being bully ball guys, right? On a 4th and 2, where are you running the football? You're running behind Rocco Spindler, potentially, or behind Billy Stroud. Like, who's the guy that asserts his will in the run game?
Exactly.
I don't think you really have one right now, because I'm interested to see, because I know Blake Fisher's a really dominant run blocker at times, but he is down now some significant weight this offseason. I think he's trying to get a little more flexible, maybe a little bit more foot quickness, that type of thing. Is he going to be the same bully ball type of kid that he has been at times? I'm not sure, but I think Rocco could be that guy. So we shall see.
Yeah.
That's a great question, though. Really good question
awesome.
there. Have ND Football Nerd.
All right. Using your current projection of the starting offensive line in 23, how do they stack up athletically to Notre Dame lines over the past decade? Will the strength of the O-line be balanced run or pass setting?
So using current projection of the offensive line. So, I mean, it's a tough question. I mean, the projection of the offensive line as of right now, what I foresee it being is Joe Waltz, Billy Stroud, Zeke Correll, and then a battle between Kristofic and Spindler at the other guard spot, and then Blake Fisher, right? How they stack up athletically to Notre Dame's line over the past decade. So we're obviously going back to 2013. So there's been a lot of good offensive lines in there in that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
The most athletic line that I think I've seen, Vince, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is, I mean, that Quentin Nelson offensive line with Ronnie Stanley and Mike McGlinchey. Like, that is a really, really athletic offensive line, right? Like, really athletic. I don't know if it's quite to that level of athletic. I will say that it's going to be one of the biggest offensive lines that they've had. I mean, across the board, if Rocco Spindler is the starting guard, you're going to have 318, 300 plus with Billy Stroud. I think Zeke's was down to about 300 this offseason. Spindler's 325, and then you have Blake Fisher was 327 last year. He's listed at 310. I'm sure he'll probably be more in the 315 plus range, somewhere in that ballpark. So that's going to be a really big offensive line. So I think it'll be one of the more talented. I think it'll be one of the longer offensive lines that they've had at Notre Dame over the last decade. But I don't know if I would say that it's one of the top 1 to 2 most athletic. I mean, they've had some really good ones over the last few years.
Yeah, athletic isn't the word that I would use to describe this line. They could very well be very, 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 very good. But athletic isn't what the word that I would use. You know what I mean? It just that's not what stands out to me when I see these guys play. So I'm not saying they're bad by any stretch of the imagination. I think, like I said, 2 minutes ago, I just said that 5 could potentially be a Joe Moore Award finalist, you know, if Rocco meets his ceiling this year. So I think they're going to be really, really good. And, you know, not all lines are created equal with the way that they get things done. You know what I mean? And I think if it is Rocco, I feel like they're going to be pretty balanced because they're just going to be nasty in the run game, and then the pass game they're going to be fine. Like they'll be just fine. If it's Andrew, I feel like they're going to be a little bit more like 65-55 or whatever 65-45. Excuse me, I got to do math with gym teacher math there.
110% of the plays. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. So they would be a little bit more skewed to the pass than the run because I think that Andrew's a little bit more of a finesse guard than Rocco is, right? I think Rocco
tackle recruit makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely. Yep. And so Rocco brings a little bit more to the run game, and it makes them a little bit more balanced. So, either way, they're going to be fine. They're going to be just fine.
If Rocco Spindler is a starting guard opposite of Billy Stroud, I think that'll be one of the better run blocking units they've had in a long time. I do, because I look at Blake Fisher, as long as his weight is in a good spot, as long as his core is still strong, he's going to be a very plus run blocker. Billy Stroud, I expect to be a very good run blocker. Rocco Spindler, 325 pounds. I also expect Zeke Corral to take a nice step forward after a good season, but I expect him to be a better player. And then Joe Walt isn't big mover in the run game, but he's a really good positional blocker. He gets to the right spots and he creates movement when he needs to create movement. So I think if run blocking, it's going to be one of the better units that they've had in a long time.
Yeah, me too.
All right. And then we had a next question. Remember, MB in front of the questions makes it a little easier to decipher.
Yes, it does.
We had this one from Domer Grizz.
All right. Would Paul Hornung be a dude in today's game like he was back in his day? What position would he play now? I know he played seemingly every position. Wow, we're getting into the deep time machine on this one.
He was an option quarterback, wasn't he, when he was a Heisman Trophy winner?
I haven't watched a lot of film on Paul Hornung, to be perfectly honest with you.
I remember he was an option quarterback and won the Heisman, and then he went to Green Bay and then became a tailback, obviously. I mean, I would say that he would probably be he was like 6'2", 215 pounds, I think, 210 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. So I mean, he would be a running back or maybe a safety. Maybe a rover? Yeah. I don't know.
He played some defense, didn't he? I want to say.
It's possible.
I don't know. I've never seen Paul Hornung play. I mean,
he wouldn't be quarterback at the University of Notre Dame right now.
And I don't watch Packer games, so because the Packers suck. No, I'm just kidding. The golden boy. Yes, the golden boy. The Gold Boys. I don't know, man. Like the problem is that's such a different time period than it is today. I mean, it's a completely different. So it's hard to say. Hey, Brian, what's up?
Can I help you guys out with this one a little bit before I go back out of here?
Yeah, please do.
So in 1956, Paul Hornung led the Notre Dame team in passing, rushing, scoring, kickoff, and punt returns, and punting. He also led the team in breakups and was second in interceptions and tackles.
Yep, played in the secondary. There you go.
Little different era. Also played on a really bad team the year he won the Heisman.
It sounds like a Pop Warner kid.
Like
just
3 games.
Both sides of the ball. Like he's always out on the field.
Yeah. I can't believe you guys haven't gone on YouTube and watched Paul Hornung film.
I've seen it. I've seen
I'm being sarcastic at Notre Dame.
Busy watching Logan Saldate's film.
Yeah. I think running back would in today's game. I think Ryan, you nailed it. I think running back would be the
maybe
decision.
Safety.
But
maybe at that size.
Yeah.
I don't know.
If he's gonna at 6, if he's as big as you say he was, that's probably Rover size most likely the way he played. But yeah. He was, I think, running back would be the big old running back in a one back downhill Aldrich Estimate type guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then he would punt, Vince, because I knew you love punters.
I love punters. So, punters are the best.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wanted to, I just like, Paul Hornung, seriously? That's what
I saw your face down there. You're like, what?
Paul Hornung?
What are we talking about?
But, yeah. Yeah, next week. Hey, so what would Leon Hart have played at Notre Dame, Ryan, if he was around today? Like, I don't know.
Older.
Well, and here's the question too, Ryan, is like when you look at it, everybody says, "Well, how would this guy play?" But if he played today, he'd either be like 100, like 90 years old, right? If he was still around. Unfortunately, Paul Hornung passed in 2020, but it would be if he grew up in this era. Well, if he was 6'2", 215 back then. I mean, is he more Drake Bowen now? Right? That would be my question. Is he going to look more like Drake Bowen now than a running back? I think that would be the other thing that you'd look at and say, if he had modern medicine and strength conditioning with the athlete he was, I think Drake Bowen 6'2", 230-pound, really athletic middle linebacker or will linebacker. That's the other thing to consider, as far. So, because if he was 6'2", 215, what are the odds he would still be 6'2", 215?
Right, exactly.
Nowadays.
Because that 6'2", 215 doesn't look like 6'2", 215 of today. Either. Just saying.
It was a little bit more natural.
That's like when you look at Babe Ruth's size, it's like 6'2", 225. I'm like, 6'2", 225 does not look like that anymore, sir.
But he was huge. I mean, if you go back and look, he was so much bigger than everybody else around
exactly.
him. Right.
Yeah.
And now it's like 225 in baseball now looks like Mike Trout, who looks like he could play running back. And then in the NFL with those big old thick thighs and how he looks athletically. So, yeah, I just thought that was an interesting one. I was like, I got to jump in for this one. But I always say when questions like this, Vince, this is when I wish that we were doing a show with Lou.
Yeah,
when a question like this pops up, say, wish you're doing a show with Lou. Yeah, anyway, great stuff so far, guys. I just wanted to jump in there and say that when I'm cutting up the breakdown of Logan Saldate. Great interview, by the way, guys. Had a chance to listen to that. Very, very.
It's easy when you've got a good or when you've got a good person giving you something in return. I will say that.
True.
Yeah, it wasn't just yep, nope.
That was going to be the thing I wanted to say too. Is like, it's just you always hear these kids and Notre Dame's going after this kid, and every time you talk to him, you're like, yep, okay, I get it. Like almost every single time, it's like, yep, you understand why this kid committed to Notre Dame without having ever taken a visit. You're like, yep, okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because they're just different. That it really is. That Notre Dame kid, I used to think it was just kind of that excuse you'd make for a kid that, maybe didn't want to go anywhere else because nobody else, Bama didn't want him. But then you start to feel like, oh, yeah, I get it. Yeah, that kid's that way. So anyway, great job, guys. I'm going to get back to work, but I just wanted to jump in, say hi.
Good to see you, Brian.
And talk about Paul Hornung.
Man, that just gave me a flashback there, Vince, because I started thinking about bad interviews I've had in the past. And there was a former wide receiver who went in the second round who I probably asked 20 questions and it lasted 6 minutes. I'm like, that's as good as that interview went.
Yeah, those are the worst because you're just like, oh my gosh. You try to find that thing that's going to bring more out of them and it just doesn't. Like there's nothing that you can come up with that's going to bring more out of them. And it's like, okay, we're done. It's good. We're cool.
So surprising that NFL receiver has not been very good in the NFL. Who would have thought? Maybe it's not personable enough. Anyway, Josh Buffo, the motivational business backer, is up next.
What do you think the national perception of this Notre Dame team in 23 is if you have Michael Mayer on it? Does it change it a lot, a little, or not at all? Love the mailbag, and you guys go Irish.
I mean, it's an interesting question, Josh. I would say that there would be a little bit more. I would say maybe people would have slightly higher expectation for Sam Hartman because they would say he has more of a known commodity at pass catcher.
That makes sense. Yeah.
So maybe that a little bit, but I think overall the perception would still be the same. I think people would be underrating Notre Dame a little bit too much. I think that people would still think that there's a little bit of a cap on how good Notre Dame can be. So I don't think perception-wise it changes the full scope. I think it might just be like, oh yeah, maybe Sam Hartman's going to be a little bit better than we think just because he has a guy that is a legitimate pass catcher.
Sure.
So that's the only thing I think of. But
yeah, that's fair because, they would probably come back to, well, Michael Mayer was on the team last year and they still lost to Stanford and Marshall and, all of those different things. And really what it comes down to is the receiving core, right? I've seen too many people be like, well, you see the receiving core he had at Wake Forest. Well, again, it's like, it's the chicken and the egg talk. Like, okay, is it the receivers that made the quarterback or is it the quarterback that made the receivers, and can Sam Hartman have a positive effect on the Notre Dame receivers? Yeah, he can. Yes. So I feel like there's a lot of haters out there that are like, well, he doesn't have the receivers that he had at Wake Forest, so he's not going to be successful at Notre Dame. It's like, okay, all right. Sounds good. We'll see August 26th.
Yes. I mean, and like I loved A.T. Perry at Wake Forest, but it's like the year before A.T. Perry became A.T. Perry, he wasn't A.T. Perry either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like there's always a maturation that needs to happen. So
absolutely.
Yes. We had a question from Tavis McKay. If it would get pulled up, that'd be great. There we go.
Hey, what are IB's thoughts on the destroying video featuring Notre Dame? Do videos like that help recruiting or do they hurt? Or they do more hurt than good? Basic reference, it was a campus tour with TM and JL.
Yep, Tobias Merriweather and Jeremiah Love were in the video. I watched parts of it, Tavis. I haven't watched the whole thing. I think it helps. I think exposure is a good thing when you have something good to expose, right?
Okay.
I mean, because if I had a team that was like, I had a bunch of just boring, not great guys a part of the program, or a coach that doesn't present himself very well, why would I want that perspective to be out there?
Sure.
But I think if Notre Dame, I mean, Vince, how big of a buzz is it to have Marcus Freeman as your head coach? I mean, he can go on SportsCenter. He can go throw out a first pitch. He can go on Go Morning Football, and it'd be like, yeah, that guy's magnetic. That is going to help recruiting. That's going to help a national perspective as well. And I think giving a glimpse into some of the players, I think is always a good thing as long as they're good people. And Notre Dame has a lot of good people behind.
They're riddled with good people. Yeah, no doubt about that. Yeah, right.
So
absolutely, it's not going to hurt the program. I mean, it can only be a positive, in my opinion, unless they're swearing all the time, unless they give a negative, profile of themselves, then yeah, it's not negative. I do not subscribe to the even negative press is good press. Like, I don't subscribe to that. Like, this isn't politics, but I do subscribe to, if it's positive press, then there's no way that it can hurt.
Yep.
Is it going to be the difference between a 5-star picking Notre Dame and not picking Notre Dame? No, it's not. Yeah. But it can't hurt you.
Yes. And I think with your Notre Dame, when you have so many good people and you have a magnetic guy as a head coach, giving them as much access to that, I think is a great thing for Notre Dame. Talk about the relevance and the just national kind of feelings about Notre Dame. I think Marcus Freeman and the team that he has assembled is a big selling point.
Right.
I believe. Oh, did I just get knocked out there? Am I good now?
Nope, you're good. I got you.
That was weird. It looked like my I had a moment that you had at the beginning where my microphone looked like it disconnected. It
was so weird. Like, I have no idea what happened. Like, I didn't touch my mic.
I didn't touch anything either, man. It just started going haywire. Huh, interesting. Okay. All right, let's move on.
All right. Andy Football Nerd projecting Chris Tyree's all-purpose production. Who will his impact be more comparable? Curtis Samuel, Chris Rainey, Percy Harvin, DeAnthony Thomas, Dexter McCluster, or other?
Oh, it's definitely not going to be Dexter McCluster, because Dexter McCluster was like a 1,400-yard rusher in the SEC. Like, he's not going to run the football that much. I think DeAnthony Thomas is a very interesting one. I could see that. My only hesitation is DeAnthony Thomas, some of the time, his biggest impact was as a punt returner, like as a return man. And Chris Tyree obviously returns kicks, but he's not a punt returner. He's probably not going to be a punt returner at Notre Dame. Percy Harvin's another interesting one, but he's a little bit more gadgety than what I think he's going to be. Chris Rainey's a little bit of the same way. Curtis Samuel, I think, is the answer that I would go with here, because I think Curtis Samuel is a pretty dense build. I can see him being a guy that works in the slots and also you motion around, get some jet sweeps too. I think Curtis Samuel would be my answer, and DeAnthony Thomas would be my second answer offensively. But DeAnthony Thomas is just a little bit different because he's not just an offensive player. Like, he's a weapon no matter where you use him. But I would go Curtis Samuel out of that comparison.
Good stuff. Love it.
Definitely not Dexter McCluster. He was the weirdest player ever, Vince. He was like 5'7", 170 pounds, ran for like 1,400 yards in the SEC at Ole Miss. It was nuts, man. Didn't make any sense. Make any sense. Next question.
Kiko, where do you rank Notre Dame's position groups in relation to the teams on their schedule? That's a whole show right there.
Yes. I just wanted to bring that up because I'm sure Brian will probably be doing something similar to that. Yes. On a week-to-week basis, if not something preseason. So, Kiko, I saw the question. Just wanted to give you kind of the shout out here because we appreciate you being in the show. But that is like a very, very large show that could happen probably for several days.
Comparing each position group to 11 other teams and then ranking all of them is not only going to take an entire show, but it's also going to take a bunch of research and prep for said show. So,
you don't know everything about every one of these teams yet?
Yeah, sure don't. Sure don't. And I'm thinking right around the middle of August, I'm going to start breaking down, Navy. So I got some time before that hits.
That's so funny. All right, we got. This is some type of baseball question.
Baseball, huh?
I don't know if I think this is a one for Brian because it was asking about the Reds. So I'm going to leave this one out of here for now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Probably about Ellie De La Cruz and how amazing he is. That's all the
Yeah.
Reds have to talk about.
He is very good.
He's very good.
He's
There's
a
no
freak,
doubt about
man. That's
it.
like
Anybody would take him
dude
on their team. There's no doubt about that.
Oh, I saw a tweet the other day that they tried saying that the kid was overrated or something like that. I'm like, he's a rookie. What are we doing right now? Like,
he can't be too overrated. He's producing on the field. Now, will it last? I don't know, but he's a physical specimen and he's doing
freak, man.
A lot of good things for the Reds. So
I don't think there's a lot of kids that I would call necessarily freaks in baseball as far as athletically, but like he is a freak, man.
Yeah,
like,
he qualifies.
I see him playing shortstop, third base at like 6'4", 6'5". Like it doesn't make any sense. Greg Lisman Jr. Next question.
Out of the big 3 games this season, Ohio State, USC, Clemson, which game do you believe the defense will produce the most turnovers? And also, which game the offense will score the most points?
I think for me, where do I see the most turnovers being forced? It's usually the most inexperienced quarterback. At the points in the season, Ohio State will have the most inexperienced quarterback. So I'm going to go Ohio State, Clemson, USC is as far as the most turnovers produced.
That's fair. And then I'll take the last part. I think they're going to score the most points on the weakest defense, and that's still USC, no matter what they did in the transfer portal. So they're going to score them. I feel like they're going to score the most points against USC, and and the fact that it's also a home game as well definitely helps. And so I think they're going to score the most against. So the order I would guess I would go there would be USC, Ohio State, Clemson.
Yeah. Well, and USC, to your point, Vince, also has the reigning Heisman Trophy winner and a very good offense coming back. So you probably have to score the most points against that team as well. So
yes,
makes total sense.
I would not be overly surprised if it was a shootout. I would be disappointed in Notre Dame's defensive effort if that was the case. But I could see a good number, like whatever the total is for over-under, like going into that week, would not be overly surprised if people took the over and won.
Yes, agree. We had a couple questions about the same thing, Vince, so I'm just going to bring up one at a time here. So from Brandon Plunster.
All right, he says, is there going to be a live show on Sunday?
And that question is because Kingston Viliamo Asa, star linebacker out of St. John Bosco, will be picking between Notre Dame, Ohio State, and USC. Brandon, I know you're not going to hear this, but the answer is I'm not sure yet. Okay, so it's not a negative. It's not a negative yet of like, no, there's not going to be a show. It's not a positive yet of yes, there's going to be a show. This one is going to be down to the wire and very interesting. So the next question had similar to do with this, Vince. It was from Robert Bishop.
Yeah, it says, what percentage would you say that KVA commits to Notre Dame on Sunday? I'm just frankly happy that it's 48 hours away, and either direction we can stop talking about it.
So this has been one of the most fascinating recruitments I've ever followed, folks. It has been, because if you've talked to Kingston, he is hyper-focused and he's honest, very hyper-focused and honest. We know that it has basically come down to Notre Dame and Ohio State. Those are the two teams. USC is kind of out of this conversation now at this point. And he's been very transparent. He told everybody basically when it happened that, like, I'm down to 2 schools now. I'm down to 2. So I think right now it is a 50-50 chance. I truly do. And I know there's a lot of people out there, Ohio State's the team. You could convince me that it would be Ohio State, and I would believe you. You could convince me it'd be Notre Dame, I would believe you. This is one of those where he is keeping everything very close to the vest. I could say Ohio State people are still very confident. Notre Dame people are still very confident. So this one is truly 50-50, guys. I know we don't want to hear that, but that's where this is right now. I don't think there's one, like, if he's made his decision, he hasn't made it be known to anyone yet. So that's kind of where we are right now with Kingston. And we shall see if there's going to be one on Sunday.
Going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry for not a more absolute answer for you.
Yeah, all, that's just where it's at, man. And Mike Sullivan says, can I recommend having a show either way? It would be cool to watch live without knowing.
Oh, I mean, I'd be very upset if that. I don't know. I'm just kidding, man.
We'll see. That could be the case. We don't know. We don't know.
Yeah. Next question is from
T
Tommy
Guns.
Guns.
There we go. What's he's talking about Logan Saldate. He says, what is his 40 3-cone split times, other numbers if you have them?
So I don't have those numbers, Tommy, but I can tell you he's a 10.8 100-meter kid, so a pretty good time. Only his first year of doing track, by the way. 10.8, and then he is also a 24-foot and 1/2 inch long jumper. So I imagine, based upon that short area explosiveness from the long jump, short area stuff would be very good. I would guess he's probably in the 4.5 to 4.55 range in the 40-yard dash. That would be my guess. I don't have a verified time on him in a 40. If he's a 4.4, he's a 4.4 high guy, in my opinion, like 4.48, 4.49, somewhere in that ballpark. But I would guess he's somewhere 4.5 flat to 4.55, somewhere in there, based upon track times.
Fair enough.
Next question. We just had a comment here, Vince, I can read real quick. D-Troll Hunter said this dude has way more juice than Chris Fink. Agree. He definitely has more juice than Chris Fink. Sure. Although Chris Fink, I don't think
he's got some underrated
credit
juice
for being an athlete. Like,
yeah.
He was a good athlete. He had like a 40-inch vert coming out of college, man.
Yeah.
A good athlete.
Yeah.
We had Archer, first question of the day. What's up, Archer?
All right. The 2021 spring Ohio State wide receiver room had what will end up being at least 6 first-round draft picks. Yep. Olave, Wilson, Williams, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marv, and Amika.
Yep.
Marvin Harrison Jr. Yes.
What
are some of the most loaded rooms that you remember?
That's a great question. Archer, I mean, go look at the 2001 Miami team at any position, basically. It was just insane. Do you remember that running back room, Vince, that year? They had Willis McGahee, they had Clinton Portis, they had Frank Gore, they had Jared Payton, and they had Najee Davenport. They had 5 NFL running backs on there, and and 3 of them were perennial 1,000-yard rushers on the NFL level. Like, just insane.
Wow.
Absolutely insane. I would say Notre Dame's offensive line in like 2015, like that was an embarrassment of riches, man. From left tackle all the way over to right tackle. Sure. That was absolutely insane. So
this is a question for Brian. He's got the he's pretty good with the history and that, you know, and running, because what was the running back room? And so I don't even know if you're going to know the answer to this.
Yeah.
Like in the early 90s for Notre Dame, you know.
Where they were moving a bunch of running backs to corner and stuff?
I mean,
like the thing? Yeah.
You had Brooks and you had Bettis.
Dorsey Levens was on one of those things.
Right?
He transferred to Georgia Tech because it was too loaded. Yeah.
Wasn't Ricky Waters in there? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I'm getting my 90s timeline straight, but I know that there was a run of really, really good running backs at Notre Dame, like in the early 90s. So
late 80s, early 90s. It was crazy, man.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no doubt. Yeah, I'm trying to think of like a couple other ones, Archer, but it's pretty good, man.
Troy McIntosh, he pulled it up here. He says Tony Brooks, Dorsey Levens, Reggie Brooks, Ricky Waters, and Bettis. That's a pretty good room. Those are all NFL running backs as well. So that's a pretty good room right there. Yeah.
Yes. It's not bad. I've seen worse. In my lifetime.
Absolutely.
Question from Tommy Guns.
If you were creating this kid on NCAA, again referring to Logan Saldate, what would his attributes be rated at?
All right.
My goodness, Tommy.
Tommy, you're a trip, man. I think I would just go the main ones for me, Vince. Like, I'm not going to go all through.
Like hands, speed,
agility.
Those kind. Yeah, right.
Yeah. I would say speed would be high 80s, probably 88, 89, somewhere in that ballpark, maybe 87, somewhere there. Agility would be 90 plus. I would say like 92 agility. And I think his hands are probably a 90, man. He's got some really strong hands. He wins through contact. So I'd probably say high 80s speed, low 90s catching and agility. I think they're both very good.
Nice.
We had next question. Oh, I can't wait for NCAA. I don't know if that's your thing, Vince. But
oh my gosh, that's the only thing. I'm not a Madden fan. I am way more into NCAA than I ever was in. I don't know. The NFL I just never got into. I'm just way more of an NCAA fan. I like doing the franchises. I like recruiting. You know, I was that dork that like made myself a recruit and then tried to get myself on my team.
What position did you play?
Quarterback.
Nice.
But I would vary it, sometimes wide receiver or whatever. But then like if I didn't pick myself, reset. Boop. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I used to make myself a running back because that was
Nice.
cool, just
Nice.
toting the rock.
That's right.
Going back to my junior high days, toting
That's
the
right.
rock.
That's right.
We had this question from D-Troll Hunter, Vince, which he was asking this for Logan, but I think this is still kind of an interesting conversation to have.
For sure. He says, which former Notre Dame player would you comp your game to? Okay. Yeah, that's what he was doing.
I don't have a great Notre Dame one, but one I said last night to Brian, because we had found out a couple days ago that this was going to happen. Logan Saldate, I would say, reminds me of Christian Kirk that played at Texas A&M, who is now a really good wide receiver in the NFL, played with the Arizona Cardinals and now with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's a slot receiver that is going to win in tight windows, win after the catch, but also he can play a little bit outside, and he could do some stuff outside against physicality, which I think Christian Kirk could do as well. So Christian Kirk would be my comp. Notre Dame comps, I mean, the only guy that I think some people are going to say Golden Tate. I don't see Golden Tate in him, though, as much. Like, I think Christian Kirk's my comp. I know it's not a Notre Dame comp, but that's personally who I see.
Nice.
We had sorry, I'm just reading some of these comments are very funny. All right, so let's go to Tommy Guns with another question.
All right, he said, Vince. Oh, God, this is for you. Yeah, Ryan, Vince said you'd be the last person on the IB crew that he would call to bail him out of jail. Do you have any comment? Now, let me say, and I was very clear about why I said this. Yeah, because that was the question that was posed to us, was if you get thrown in jail, who would be the first person on IB to bail you out? And I was like, Ryan lives in Jersey. He's going to be the last one.
It would take me 10 hours to get to you.
Right.
So, yeah.
I mean, it was strictly based on distance from where I'm in jail.
That's very fair. I'm not offended at all anymore that time. Because, yes, I don't think who's your first call? The guy that lives a 10-hour car ride away from me? Like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you would call Brian and Sean Stiers first. I mean, yes.
100%.
You would have called Sean Davis before that because he's an hour and a half away. He's not 10 hours away. Like, yeah, of course. Tom, you're trying to start trouble, man, but there's no trouble here, sir.
Yeah, he is. Trying to mix it up.
Seriously. Oh, it's so funny. All right, let's go to Jason Rose.
All right. He says, hey, guys, Notre Dame has experienced quite the QB carousel the last 2 years. 2021 with Cone, 22 with the injury to Buckner and everything. Do you think Ian Book's reliability gets taken for granted?
That's a great question. I think, Jason, to a degree, I mean, because I think that it's a pretty rare thing that what Ian Book did. And I think that some of the things that he's going to get credit for are a little over the top, right? Like the winningest quarterback in Notre Dame history and all that stuff. But Ian Book was an incredibly durable player while he was at Notre Dame, and he was a very solid player, right? So, yes, I think that we take it for granted of the fact of there's a lot of quarterbacks that you can't depend on them being there every single week. And Ian Book, you could. So, yeah, I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. The fact that he was a dependable player. There's no doubt about that.
Sure, he was a gamer. I mean, he was going to play. I mean, there were times where I thought maybe he should have been replaced. But he was always going to be the guy that they rolled out there. And he was out there for 2.5 years, nonstop. And so, yeah, I mean, there is something to be said for that. Something that you at least know what you're going to get, whether that's good, bad, or indifferent. You know what you're going to get from the quarterback position. Let's figure out everything else around him. Yes, that is always good. I don't know that it was taken for granted. I wouldn't necessarily go that far, but it's an attribute that he had that was a bonus.
Agree. Bill Walsh with a funny comment. Vince just said if Vince is in jail, he's in Ann Arbor
or Columbus. Either one. So Vince, I was close. Last year.
That's so funny, man. That's hysterical. We had another question from got Jason. Let's go to
somebody didn't put his phone on silent.
Oh, you're all good, man. Salty Virginia Peanuts with a question. Salty, what's up, man? How are you? Ryan,
are you really the IB staffer least likely to bail Vince out of jail if he has to get violent with an Ohio State fan? Vince knows what I'm talking about.
Just wanted to bring this up, Salty, because again, people are starting to start drama, man. You can't misquote people. Seriously.
Are you coming into town for the Ohio State game?
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Probably
So-
the first home game, if nothing
So I
else.
mean that if he's in town, guys, if Ryan is in town, that changes the answer. But at the same time, is he going to be solo? Is he going to have his children with him? You know, with an early bedtime. You know, that kind of like, you know, if I'm going to jail, it's going to be like at 2 a.m. You know, I'm not calling the guy with new kids. Like that's not cool.
Right.
All right, I'm going to call the guy with no kids or the kids out of the house. You know,
Brian can attest to this right now, folks. I am usually very good at answering my phone. Right now, good luck getting me on the phone with the kids right now. Like, good luck, guys. Every time Brian calls me, I'm like, I'm sorry, man. Like, I'm giving Juliet a bath right now, or like feeding Raina, or like something, man. Like,
listen, Brian, I love
now.
Brian to death. One of my best friends, no doubt about it. He has an innate way to call at an awkward time. Like, always calls me when I'm eating or like in the bathroom or like what. Like he just has a knack for calling at the worst possible times. It's hilarious. It happens all the time, and it never ceases to amaze me. But yeah, it's very funny. It's very funny.
We had our first super chat of the day, Vince, from Tyler Evans.
Nice. Thank you, Tyler, very much. Give me Vince's top 10 most annoying fan bases in college football.
I love that.
Wow. Okay, let's see here. I'd have to come up. I don't know if I can come up with 10 per se. And annoying is good because we had one of these that was like unrealistic, and that's different than annoying, right?
Yes.
So Michigan is by far the number one for me. No,
yes.
hands down, number
Michigan
one.
and USC, right? Like they have to be top two. They have to be two.
Ohio State's up there more so in the past like few years, I would say. But USC becomes annoying because of their song, like their music choice during games. You know, every first down, it's that annoying song. Barf. Like, yeah. Those are top three, and you can put them in whatever order you know that you want to. But yeah, it's ugly. After that, like IU basketball fans are extremely annoying. So,
really?
Oh my gosh, yeah, they think that their you know what doesn't stink, you know, that kind of a thing, and they still think they're a blue blood program, even though they haven't been good for a long time. And when I was a kid, and I know this is going to shock you because I don't hold grudges, but my youth basketball coach was a huge IU fan, and he would give me rides to practice and games, and we would always have to listen to the IU games that were on the radio, and it just made me sick. Like, I hated it. It was horrible. I didn't go to IU as a college choice because of that, because they just annoy me so much. And IU would have been a great school to go to as well, you know, from academics to the price, all of those things. But c'est la vie. So IU basketball would be up there for me. IU football fans, like, they don't really have anything to brag about. So.
They have nothing to brag about, right?
There's nothing really there. But IU basketball is horrible. Nobody else really bothers me that much. Other than those four. Like, those are the four top ones for me. I would have a hard time coming up with six other ones. Like, yeah, SEC fans are annoying, and they can just be kind of clumped into the whole mess of them. Like, SEC, like, in general, they're annoying. But those are my top four specific ones. Yeah, for sure.
Notre Dame, USC, Ohio State's another good one. Ohio State is very annoying.
Yes.
Texas is very annoying. Very annoying.
You run into a lot of Texas fans?
A surprising amount, Vince, actually.
Really?
It's kind of weird. I feel like Texas is one of those schools where there's a lot of front runners involved. So, like, anywhere you go, there's some Texas fans. It's not just in the state of Texas. So, Texas fans are very strange. Penn State fans, there are a lot around here. Some of them can be a little over the top, but it's not like a ongoing issue for me personally.
Right.
But Notre Dame, Michigan and USC are the top two. And Michigan's number one, but like, if you told me USC's my most hated on one day, I would be like, yeah, sure. They're very annoying. So, yeah. Great question, though, Tyler.
That's an awesome question.
Vince, you need to actually put together a top 10 and put it on the message board.
I might have to. So the thing is, like, it's also very regional because it's the people that you have to deal with on a regular basis, right? And so a lot of Big Ten annoyance for me. And then it's just the people. I'll also say the most annoying are the people that like Notre Dame has to join the Big Ten, like that whole sect of people. I could do without them as well. You know what I mean? And I don't know, they're fans of everything, but they just think that Notre Dame belongs in the Big Ten and that's their thing. And it's just
man, I roll my eyes every time I hear that. I actually listen to one podcast of like guys I really like, including one guy that's a podcast co-host of mine, but his buddy who I really like is a good dude. He said that last night on a podcast, Vince, where he's like, Notre Dame just joined a conference already. I'm like, why? What does Notre Dame get out of joining it right now? They get nothing out of it. Like,
and how does it affect you? You know what I mean? Like
at all. I say this all the time, It's because Notre Dame's different, and people are like, oh, they're why are they special? It's just like, all right, guys, like relax, man. It'll be all right. It'll be all right.
Yep. I'm with you. I'm with you.
We had another question from Archer, a resident Ohio State fan, who also said that Notre Dame would be on his list. And I respected Archer.
I respect that, but he's in here and he's doing his thing and he's always respectful. And so I have no problem with Archer, but I get where he's coming from. If I was not a Notre Dame fan, I could easily see, because there's plenty of Notre Dame people that I am not a fan of. Because there's a group out there that's pretty snotty and pretty nose in the air.
Man.
Like
I posted a story on Logan when he committed, Vince, on Twitter, and there's this one Notre Dame fan that's just insufferable, man. Like, another 3-star closing the gap. Like, shut up, dude. I literally said respectfully, shut up.
I love it. I used to wait tables for my part-time job around here, and the worst weekends were home football weekends and like parent weekends, because there's a lot of Notre Dame parents out there that, they're just, I'm not saying everybody, but the ones that would come to the restaurant that I was working at, you thought the rules didn't apply to them, and very snooty and hated it.
Yes.
But anyway. Yes. I'll get off. This is my stop. I'll get off the petty train now.
I like it.
All right, Archer. Given the hideous Colts alternate uniforms and the beautiful Ohio State alternate uniforms, what are your 3 favorite alts and 3 ugliest alts? Now, first of all, Archer, you can't possibly be talking about the all black, like the black
you don't
helmet
like those?
And everything for Ohio State. Those are horrible.
You think they're horrible? I kind of like them.
Oh, those are horrible.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Terrible. Terrible.
Oh, man. I don't know why, but my mind immediately goes to color rush jerseys in the NFL. Like, some of the color rushes are really dope. Some people probably won't agree with this, but I actually love the Rams color rush, like the yellow one. I think it's sick, man. I think it's really nice.
Yeah.
The Eagles blacks are actually, no, that's not an alternate uniform. When the Eagles go Kelly green, it's actually pretty nice. I hate the Eagles, but I think that's really nice. Trying to think of some other alternative uniforms, because he's right about Archer. I agree with you 100% on one. That new Colts uniform is hideous, man. Absolutely hideous. There's no doubt about that.
So I'm being told that Ohio State got new gray alternates, which I have not seen. So I guess I can't comment. So I'll take it back, Archer, if you're talking about gray ones that I haven't seen. I'm just not a big fan of the black ones that I saw. I'm more of like a white on white. Like,
you're not a black uniform guy. You know,
really.
I like the North Carolina blacks, like their alternate uniform. I think they're really nice. I'm a sucker for some all blacks. To be honest,
would you be happy if Notre Dame went all black one day?
No, because that would kind of take away from their history type of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm trying to think of like the Katie just put a fire one. The Ole Miss powder blues are sick.
Those
awesome. Are so nice. So nice.
Those are awesome. I like when they go alternate and they like throw it back, like the Patriots throwbacks with the guy spiking the football, or snapping the football. I like those.
Yes.
There's definitely some throwbacks that are terrible, like the Packers ones or the Steelers where they look like bumblebees. Like those are terrible.
Yes. The Packers ones are ugly too, like the blue and yellow ones.
Yeah,
those things
horrible.
Are hideous, man. Hideous. Yeah.
Horrible. When the Bears go all orange, those are horrible too. Like they wear those around Halloween a lot. Like those are terrible. You don't need to look like a pumpkin. Like those are bad. Those are really bad. I will say, Like I like the Carolina Panthers when they go with their black helmet and stuff like that. I can get on board with black. I'm not anti-black. It's just I like that matte black a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Not the shiny black. It's got to be like a matte black.
Yeah, I like the matte too. Matte
finish, that sort of thing, for sure. So I'm a fan of changing up uniforms. I'm a uniform guy. You know what I mean? Like my baseball team, we had 4 different uniforms. And we mixed them up, man. Different pants, different tops. Like we mixed it up, and I was getting ready to order some pinstripes. We're gonna go navy on navy with gold pinstripes. Like we were going all out, and then I got a different job, and so I didn't order them. But
I don't know if the old Charger uniforms count as alternate because how often do they wear those? They really never wear those anymore, do they?
Because they have. I think their home ones are powder blue anyway, so I think they kind of stick with those.
If that counts, that's like my favorite uniform of all time. I literally got an old Chargers uniform. I think. I can't remember if I had Kellen Winslow Sr. or who it was, but I got like one of the throwbacks because they were super nice. You know who else is really nice is you remember the Rams jerseys when they were originally in LA in like the 70s, 80s into the 90s.
You like those yellows?
No, the blue and yellow.
Oh, the blue. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a Jack Youngblood jersey from like a throwback jersey from that era, and I thought that's pretty sick to be honest. I think it's really
nice.
Purdue uniforms. Purdue's all black. Wait, isn't the black? That's Purdue's regular uniform.
Purdue's that's their normal, and they I don't know.
They do a gold one, right? They do like a gold alternative, I think.
I think they do. Yeah. Purdue's not bad. They got good colors to work with, like black and gold. Like those are good colors to work with.
Oh, someone said Buccaneers creamsicles. Those things are hideous, man. Even though I also do have a Leroy Selman throwback in a creamsicle, but like, nah, it's not very nice.
Look at you with all the jerseys. You might have to put those out sometimes. Like
I used to have a lot of throwback jerseys, like people before my time. So like I had Leroy Selman and Jack Youngblood and Eric Dickerson and like those types of dudes. Like, yeah.
Nice. I like it.
That's my jam, man. That's my jam back.
I love it.
All right, let's go to Carlos Garzet. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. Sorry, Carlos.
That's about what I thought it was. All right, he goes, I'm sure you guys have heard the Kirby Smart speech in the Natty at halftime. Are you guys into those kinds of speeches or not so much? I haven't heard it. Can you give me like a synopsis? Was it like fire and brimstone, screaming, yelling, or was it?
Yeah, it wasn't like crazy, but like, yeah, I mean, it's definitely got a little vibrance to it, I would say. I mean, I'm a fan, Carlos. I'm a fan of being able, because I think this is a hidden trait of coaching, is that you need to read the room and know when those types of speeches are needed and when they're not, and you need to be able to change it up, right? Like we've all had that coach that just wants to go out there and just does the same rah-rah speech each and every week. It's just like, guys, like, this isn't working anymore. It's not working. We need something different. You need to be able to read the room. So obviously it works for Georgia. I mean, they straight national championship games. So like, I guess it reads the room pretty well, but you really need to be able to read the room as a coach. And I think that's kind of a hidden skill to have.
Yes, it is. I'm fine with yelling and screaming and swearing, to be honest with you, but there's a time and a place for it, because if you do it all the time, it's not effective. It's just not. If you don't do it all the time and then you bring it out, and the players, okay, like coach means business, like, so there's a time and a place.
Yeah, I know there was some cursing in it and stuff, but like, again, as long as you're not demeaning someone, like
that doesn't bother. That doesn't bother me. You're right. As long as you're not demeaning them, but like, I grew up in the age of getting demeaned.
Yes.
I definitely had to clean up my life as a coach, because I was coaching the way I was coached early on in my career, and I learned it's probably not the way to go about it. So learned that very early on when I was in like my mid-20s and I was first starting to coach.
Yes. We had another question from Da.
Oh, okay. What's the one position you're most concerned with?
Safety.
Yep, 100%. And it's only half the safety position, but
yeah,
I'm very confident in Xavier Watts. I am.
Yeah. I mean, I'm even concerned about the depth of it though, too. Like,
sure.
Because I think Antonio Carter could be a good football player for Notre Dame, but I've never seen Antonio Carter play down on the Division I level. So, like, I mean, not Division I. He was on FCS, which is Division I now. I've never seen him play a snap of football on the FBS level. I've never seen it.
Right.
So, how good will he be? No idea. And then you have Adon Schuler, who I've heard is very close back to 100%, which is great. Ben Minich is back, but like those guys are still coming off of 2 off-season injuries and surgeries, right? So, like, the depth is just a little bit of a concern to me. Just a little bit. Tight end as well. A little bit concerning as far as depth is concerned. We had a question from D. McAnally. McAnally? Sorry.
With Notre Dame only having 3 quarterbacks on the roster and Hartman leaving and Carr coming in January, do you see Notre Dame offering a preferred walk-on spot to Teddy Rizak's twin brother so that there will be 4 quarterbacks on the roster?
I would. Again, like, I don't know if that's something that his brother would be open to, but for people that don't know, West Side in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, which is where Teddy Rizak is from, his brother is a really good quarterback for their team. Listed 6'3", 190 pounds. He's probably more in the 6'1 and a half, 6'2 range, but he's a nice athlete. He's got offers right now, Vince, from the military academies. So he's got like Army, Air Force, Navy, because option quarterback, right?
They run option. Okay.
Yeah. So he's a really good athlete. So would I offer him a preferred walk-up spot? I personally would. Yeah. If he wants to come, go for it. I don't even know if he'll be a quarterback long term.
That was going to be my next question. Like, if he's an option quarterback, like, there's 2 option quarterbacks on the roster already, and one plays running back, one plays tight end. So I don't know that solves your number of quarterbacks on the roster problem. I mean, I don't know this kid at all. You're saying he's a good athlete. Really good. What have you got to lose by offering a preferred walk-on spot? Nothing.
Maybe he's a safety or a rover eventually. Like, okay,
but I don't see that that's how they're going to solve the quarterbacks on the roster problem at all. That's not going
to fix the depth issue. You're going to have to figure out a second number in 2024, or you're going to have to go into the portal for a backup. Like, that's what I see in it. But I will say that Rizak's brother, whose name is escaping me at the moment, he is a good quarterback, though. A really talented athlete. I would, if he wants to play,
why not?
He wants to come play, prefer walk on. Heck,
you kidding me? Yeah. I'm praying for a preferred walk-on spot for my kid. So, like, that would be awesome.
Yep,
that'd be great.
No doubt about it. Yep, he's a good. Vince, I wrote an article about Teddy earlier for like a season preview. They have 2 state championships in the last 3 years. They've been 35-2 over the last 3 years. So pretty good.
So he knows how to win, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he wins a lot of football games. Yes,
there's something to be said for that.
I think he ran for like 1,000 yards from the quarterback position last year. So yes.
From Archer, ever since Venables took over at Oklahoma, he has repeatedly put his foot in his mouth and feels really slimy. Which college coach puts you off the most, BK not included? All right, good thing he said that, because that would have been the easy layup answer, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean,
can I comment on Venables first?
Please.
From Archer. Archer, I've been like pretty consistent on this, and nothing that Venables has shown me so far has changed my opinion. I think Brett Venables is a fantastic defensive coach. I think he's a really good defensive mind. I just don't think he's a head coach, man. I don't think he understands what he's really doing 100% of the time, all the time. I still think he's still figuring it out. Could he figure it out? It's possible, but I'm just not sold on him as a head coach. I'm really not.
Completely agree. Yeah.
Just not.
Which
college coach puts you off the most? That's interesting. You know what put me off the most? And it was this is going to be a controversial take here, Vince. I was watching SEC Media Day earlier, and Lane Kiffin was on it, and he was talking about some stuff that him and his staff are doing. And I was like, that's awesome, man, the stuff they're doing. But they're trying to paint Lane Kiffin as this like really great guy and stuff. And I know way too many stories about Lane Kiffin to buy into the fact that he's a really good guy. So he's one guy that I'm just like, that's some false bravado right there. Like, he's not that type of dude.
Stemming back to like his days at Tennessee and, all of that as well. Like, but I don't know, like, I can't stand listening to Lincoln Riley talk. Pat Narduzzi obviously gets on my nerves. That's about it. Like, I like some of the people that other people don't like. Like, I like Dabo. I like listening to Dabo talk.
I like Dabo too.
I really do. I bashed IU football before, but I'll say I enjoy listening to Tom Allen talk.
No, he's a good coach.
I think he's obviously not doing a great job at IU currently, but he kind of had things going in the right direction, and then he lost Penix and his offensive coordinator, and things kind of went downhill. But I like him. I think he's a good motivator. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, those are the two guys that would come to mind for me as guys that kind of
doesn't
annoy me.
I know someone said, I think Nathan just said like Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh doesn't bother me. I think he's just kind of funny because he's so awkward. So.
I roll my eyes like it's like,
Yes.
Oh God, it's Jim again. Like he's just kind of like that crazy uncle that comes to the cookout and he's just off in the corner, just spouting out nonsense. And you're just like, okay, Jimmy, like, okay, Uncle Jimmy. Okay, thanks.
He eats his boogers on the sideline. Like he's a harmless guy. Like he's just there.
He's absolutely harmless. Like, I just have this visual. Remember, he spent the night at like that kicker's house, like the first day of contact or whatever. Like weird. I've got this visual of him with like his sleeping bag under his arm, like in all Michigan sweats and like his hat. And he's like, bing bong. He's like, I'm here for the sleepover. Like he's just a dork. Like
D-Troll Hunter said Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher is a very good answer.
That's actually solid. Way. Yeah, that's a solid answer.
I mean, the answer is Venables, though. Venables rubs me the wrong way, man.
Yeah.
I remember the funniest one, Vince, was he was like spouting off about like how a commitment should be a commitment and everyone's coming after his players, all this stuff. And then they flip a kid. I'm like, Brett, right. Are you listening to yourself, sir? Like, are you listening to yourself?
Yeah, exactly.
Very inconsistent, man. Very inconsistent. Jimbo's the worst, though. Jimbo's pretty bad. Great question, Archer. You're got some good questions today, man. I love it. Beefeater.
All right. He says, who is the most likely to shoot me if I meet them at the Tennessee State tailgate and administer an unsolicited and uncomfortably long bear hug? Vince, Brian, or Ryan?
I just wanted to bring this up because nobody's going to shoot you, Beefeater, because that would be murder and we would be in jail.
Or at least attempted. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he survives.
Yeah, maybe he survives. Maybe he survives. No one's going to shoot you. I guess the question is, who's the biggest hugger? Like, are you a hugger, Vince?
Oh, I'll get in there.
All right.
I'll get in there. I'll throw a bear hug back. Like, that's not going to bother me. Like, I might even like jump into his arms. Like I'll get up there and I'll do the double wrap with the legs and the arms and be like, let's go. Like I'm cool with that. You know, it'll be awkward, but you know what? I'm going to be all in on it. But I won't be packing any heat. That's for sure. So the only thing I'd be shooting him with is like a rubber band. So like that's not going to do a whole lot of damage.
I mean, Beefeater, if you got a couple whiskeys in me, then we'll maybe have a bear hug. I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. See what happens. Next question is from Michael Johnson.
All right. He says, if Sam Hartman has an issue, what would your level of confidence be in Gino Guidugli having the quarterback ready to step in?
I mean, I feel pretty confident about it, Michael. I mean, it's still a question mark until we see it, right? Like we still have to see what it looks like at Notre Dame, but I have heard nothing but great things about Gino. And I think the attention to detail and him being just the quarterback coach and being in the room all the time, I have confidence that it'll be ready. But again, we don't know until it actually happens.
Right. It depends on what your definition of ready is. Are you expecting whoever the backup is to come in and play at the level of Sam Hartman? No, like that's not going to happen. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback's coach is going to be. Can you have somebody ready to play at their level, like where they are and like hit their ceiling for where they are in their career? Yeah, I have a lot of confidence that would be the case. So, you know, whoever takes over as the backup, whether it's Angeli or whether it's Minchie, he'll have them ready. He'll have them ready to go. I fully anticipate that, but it's not going to be a Sam Hartman impersonation. Like that's not going to be the case. You have to understand that this is the backup. Offense is going to look different, but he's going to play to the best of his ability and he'll be coached up. I do believe that.
100%. Yep. And of course we need to see it, but I have confidence in it.
Another one from Archer. Penn State fans are online angry over Abdul Carter not making a preseason all Big Ten team, claiming he is the best linebacker in the country. What Notre Dame player are you higher on than the rest of the country?
That's a great question, man. That's a really great question. Higher on than anyone in the country? Jordan Botelho, I guess. I mean, he would be one guy that I guess I'm higher on. But again, he's a question mark because he hasn't put it on for a full season yet. But I could see him being one of the more impactful pass rushers in college football this year. I think it's very possible. If we're just talking about a preseason list, though, I guess Joe Alt gets all the love. Sam Hartman, I guess. I mean, he's getting disrespected a little bit out there in some rankings.
Yeah.
So maybe Aldrich or Sam Hartman would probably be my answer, I guess.
Now, are we saying that our pick would be somebody that is like going to end up as an All-American?
Well, I think he's saying that maybe he doesn't get as much credit nationally as what he should. So I don't think it necessarily has to be an All-American or, well, Notre Dame can't make an all-conference team, but yeah, you get it.
Fair enough. Okay. You know what?
Cam Hart would maybe be another one. I guess.
He doesn't get a lot of respect just because he plays on the same field as Benjamin Morrison, who gets a lot of love, obviously. I'm going to go JD Bertrand just to piss everybody off because I think he's going to take a massive step. I believe Brian said that in his bold prediction that he's going to be an All-American. So he's got an outside chance of being an All-American. I was like, well, I don't know if I'm ready to go that far, but he's definitely not on anybody's radar, even though he's led Notre Dame in tackles the last 2 years. So I'll go JD Bertrand just to be different.
Yeah. So, now I'm thinking of like what answers would like just piss everybody off and just kind of keep doing that.
Marist would be the answer that would make everybody mad.
Future All-American Marist Loifel.
Hey, dude, if that happens, Notre Dame's going to have like the best defense in the country. Okay,
yes.
So let's be real clear on that.
All joking aside, yes, you're absolutely correct.
All right, Colin McCann says, in your opinion, which has a more positive effect or a positive impact on the future of the Notre Dame football program? If only one can happen, beating Ohio State at home or beating Clemson on the road in a hostile environment. Go Irish.
Beating Ohio State.
100%.
I mean, Notre Dame has already beaten Clemson. I understand it's at home versus road conversation, Colin. Like, I get that, but Ohio State is the power in the Midwest right now from a recruiting perspective and from a consistency perspective. I understand that Michigan has bested them the last 2 years in the Big Ten conversation. But if we're talking about a program that you need to surpass out of those two, I would say Notre Dame's a lot closer to surpassing Clemson than it is to Ohio State currently. So beating Ohio State at home, they have not beaten Ohio State in my lifetime. And I know they only played 4 times, I think, in my lifetime. But still, I mean, you have to beat that type of team. So I would say Ohio State.
Yep, I completely agree with that. They've beaten Clemson twice in the last 3 seasons. And, you know, they've proven that they can do it. Granted, both games were at home. The first game, they didn't have blah, 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 blah. I get all of that, okay? But they've still beaten them twice. They haven't beaten Ohio State. That's really what it comes down to. And I'll piggyback off on what you said, Ryan, is that which school is Notre Dame coming down to almost every time for top guys? It's Ohio State and Notre Dame. And it feels to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, it feels like Ohio State wins more than they lose against Notre Dame when it comes down to those two being the final two. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just the way it feels. But I wouldn't mind getting a W over them in an actual football game that Notre Dame can use as a little bit of ammunition in some of those battles.
Agree. We had a question here from Will ND.
Can Sam Hartman be a starting quarterback in the NFL? Absolutely. Well, I mean, look at some of the starters that are out there. Like, can he be? Yes. Can he be a starter in the NFL for like 10 plus years? That remains to be seen. But there's plenty of starting quarterbacks out there that Sam Hartman is better than.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, my question would be for Will is how are we defining starting quarterback? Are we talking about long-term starter? Are we talking about spot starter? Are we talking about a guy that can just fill in? Because I think if it's the latter two, I think that Sam Hartman could definitely be that guy. I have my questions if he's a long-term starter in the NFL, to Vince's point, right? But I mean, the Pro Bowl is becoming so much of a joke that we just had. What was the kid from Baltimore who was Anthony Brown just made a Pro Bowl? It's
ridiculous.
Threw 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, and he made a Pro Bowl. Like, what are we doing, man? Long-term starter, I would say the odds are against him as a long-term starter. I could see a spot starter. I could see maybe short-term even, but long-term, I would say no.
I would say it would have to be a pretty perfect scenario for him to be a long-term starter in the NFL. Does that scenario exist? Yeah, it exists. I would have to look closer. Let me back up. I want to see Sam Hartman play a full year at Notre Dame in a pro-style offense, all of those different things. Let me see a full year of him behind center doing that. And then let me see what the quarterback landscape is like in the NFL. And he could find that niche that is perfect for him and have a long career. Look, Kirk Cousins has been a long-term starter in the NFL. And would anybody have predicted that when he was the second quarterback taken by the Redskins in the same draft behind Griffin, right? Like, would anybody have predicted he's going to be a long-term starter in the NFL and make all the money that he's made? No way. So is it possible? Sure. I think he's got the work ethic. I think he's got the smarts, all of those types of intangibles, but he's going to have to find the right spot.
Yep. Agree. Yep. And that's usually true for a lot of quarterbacks.
Absolutely.
A lot of times, situations matter so much.
Oh my gosh. Like Brady Quinn is the prime example, right? Like if he goes almost anywhere besides Cleveland, I feel like he has a more successful NFL career than he did.
Agree.
So, yeah.
Yes. Agree. We had a super chat that I missed that we had a little bit earlier.
Rob Osgood, thank you very much for the super chat. Thanks, guys, for what you do. Ryan, great job with the articles on the boards.
Thank you for reading them,
Boom.
Rob. I very much appreciate that, sir.
Love that.
Yeah, man. And we're going now to Rick Doyle. I think this is more of a comment than a question, but we shall get it up here.
Nobody talks about how close Notre Dame was in 2012 winning a national championship. If Baylor doesn't beat Kansas State in week 10 or 11, Notre Dame is playing Kansas State in the title game in 2012. Also, if Stanford doesn't beat Oregon.
It's
right.
Possible. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Do they have a better chance against Kansas State than they do against Alabama?
Yes.
Yeah.
They did.
No doubt about it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, they were close.
I kind of wonder what the perception would have been, though, Vince, because for me, it would have been like their national championship. Who gives a what about what other people think? But national perspective of if they beat Kansas State, for instance, is that moving the needle necessarily? I think it would be because you can't make the national championship jokes anymore about they haven't won one since '88. It's 2012 now, buddy. But I don't know, just kind of an easy thought there, but. Let's go to Brent Smith. Had a few questions.
All right. He says, my cousin and the former local sports writer write a column on Palma High School football. So I'll be able to scout Logan Saldate during his senior year. Palma is a 20-minute drive away. So I...
Oh, sorry. Wait. I don't think
I'll be able to scout him objectively during his entire senior year, including the playoffs. So we got a man in the mix.
Sounds like Brian's going to have to hire you for this scouting report.
Right?
Man. But I love it. Yes, please let us know what you think of Logan, though, when you take a look at him. That's awesome. We had Ty Smith.
All right, Ryan, how is the NFL going to look at Jordan Addison's citation from yesterday? So the speeding, he was going 140 and a 50 or something like that.
Yes. Man, it's such a bad look, especially after the Henry Ruggs situation and then obviously the Georgia debacle this past offseason with the young man and young lady that lost their lives. I think that there's going to be a harsh punishment on this one, Ty. I think there is, because the recency, I think, is going to kind of force the NFL's hand here. Again, it's a citation, so there wasn't long-term damage. Henry Ruggs killed someone, right? It's obviously a much severe thing, but I think there is going to probably be a suspension that follows, in my opinion. Why does nobody ever learn is my question, Vince.
Seriously. I get it. You just came into a bunch of money. Well, He had money from USC, but came into more money. He bought himself a fast car. You get the adrenaline going, but why? Just why? The part about being an adult is making smart decisions. Don't be that stupid. I did some stupid stuff when I was a kid, but not when I was 23 or 22 years old. You know what I mean? Well, that's not true. But you know what I mean?
That's not true.
Not like that. Not like life challenging decisions.
Yes.
It's not smart.
Agree. Vince, I want to read this one real quick because Beefeater had a situation that is a reason that you would actually get arrested.
Oh, no.
Beefeater says Vince has all those daughters, so the law of averages dictates that Vince is arrested at Claire's trying to return some cheap jewelry that broke 5 minutes after he got home. I feel your pain, Vince.
Dude, we have so much Claire's in our house, and like sometimes it turns your skin green. Like it's not quality stuff, but it's what the kids can afford. You know what I mean? And we make them buy their own stuff for the most part, and so they are frequent flyers at Claire's, and so I would say I'm probably not going to return the Claire's jewelry because it's just not worth it. Would spend more in gas going back to the mall than it would even be worth it.
So don't go to Claire's when the girls are old enough, is what you're saying.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's not. It's like play jewelry essentially. So like, you get what you pay for, Ryan. It's one of those kind of deals.
We had a question now from NH.
It says, "What non-Notre Dame rivalry games would you most want to see?" So like ones that are already on the schedule.
I think they're saying what Notre Dame
Notre Dame's not involved. Yeah. Notre Dame's not involved. Gotcha.
Texas, Oklahoma, the Red River Shootout.
Yep,
or what do they call it now? Red River Showdown or whatever.
It's the Red River Shootout. Like that.
Is.
Sorry, not changing it because people are scared of the word shootout. Give me a break.
That would be a good one. I would like to see that game. Florida, Georgia, and Gainesville would be fun.
That's a good one. UCLA, USC. I love the fact that they wear their home uniforms in that game. I think that's actually really cool. I would definitely see that. I agree with Irish Blooded. I would want to go see Army Navy just once.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
I would want to go see that, just all the pageantry that goes along with it and just all of it. You know what I mean? I think that would be pretty stinking awesome.
Would you want to see Michigan, Ohio State? Would you want to see that one, Vince?
That does not interest me in any way. I get it. That's like one of the biggest rivalry games in the country. And if you're a football fan, you got
in sports, man.
Yeah, I get it. Nope. I have because I hate pretty much both. And like I have to have like a rooting interest. Like if I go to a game, you know what I mean? I got to pick somebody to root for. No.
I do like, someone just said the backyard brawl. I do like that they brought the backyard brawl down. I think that's pretty cool. Trying to think. Iron Bowl, I guess, would be a good one, right? Alabama Auburn would be an interesting one. Trying to think if there's any other ones that would intrigue me the most. That's probably about it, though.
Yeah, there's nothing in the Big Ten that really intrigues me. Like, the Oaken Bucket between Purdue and Indiana. Like, that doesn't do anything for me.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know.
Oh, it's a thing, brother. Oh, it's a thing. They literally have an Oaken Bucket, and then whoever wins gets like a medallion with an I or a P that hangs off of it on a chain. It's really rough and tough. Stupid.
Who's Hawaii's? Whoever Hawaii's big rival is, I'll go to Hawaii to watch their game. So.
Right, exactly. It's probably like Fresno State or something like that. San Jose State. Right.
Yeah. Next one is from Broke Neck Boy.
Okay. Think of the two worst losses in Notre Dame history and have those teams play each other. Who would win?
So two worst losses. Well, let's just go in the last 20 years or so, Vince. Man. Two worst losses. Stanford last year is one I think that could be in that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, Marshall could be in that conversation. Tulsa
was bad, man.
I would put now. See, it says worst losses, not worst teams, right?
Sure.
So Navy qualifies for me.
Yeah.
As worst loss. Notre Dame should never lose to Navy.
Yes.
And they have. And so that would be one of them. And I would probably, if I'm allowed to put Navy in there, I would then have Navy winning whatever team you put them up against.
Yeah. Someone said USF. That was a really bad loss.
That was bad.
That was bad. That was really bad.
How about that year? The year that Notre Dame, I think this was in the Davie era. So maybe that goes beyond our scope here, but they moved the BYU game to the beginning of the season so that they had a warm up before Michigan and then lost. Isn't that? I believe that's how it went. That was bad. That was ugly.
Yeah, it was really bad. I'll say this because I agree with Archer here, Vince. If we include Stanford in whatever game we're talking about, Stanford probably loses because Stanford last year was a bad football team, man. They were really bad. They were so bad, man.
I still can't believe they lost that game. After all the momentum that they had after Marshall, I can't believe they lost to Stanford. Like that one's even more mind-boggling than the Marshall loss. It really is.
Because I really thought Notre Dame was getting on into the groove of it a little bit, and then it was like clunker, man. Here's the clunker. Like, all right. Oh, yeah, that was really bad. Broke Nick, but it's a very interesting question though, because you can take that a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You, sir. Pete Weber, famous bowler. Here we go.
All right, you're building your dream tailgate. You get to choose one main, one side, one beer, one liquor or cocktail, one game, and one dead celebrity. What does your tailgate look like?
All right. Main dish, Vince. We'll go one by one.
Fried chicken.
Well, that's a good one. Fried chicken's a good one. Chicken wings, fried chicken. Okay. Yeah, I'm good. I'm there. Fair. I could do that. Yeah.
That's
one
fair.
Side.
Mac and cheese.
Oh, yes. I was going to be my number one, too. So mac and cheese would definitely be mine.
Like fried chicken and mac and cheese, like I would be there all day just chowing. You know what I mean? Yes. Like that would be awesome.
One beer, one liquor, one cocktail.
I mean,
I'm a whiskey guy, so just be some type of whiskey.
I'm a rum and Coke guy, so like that, I could probably go pretty crazy on that.
Go pretty crazy.
Beer, I'm not a big beer fan, to be perfectly honest with you, and that's probably going to make some people upset. Back when we used to tailgate, when I was in college, we used to tailgate at a certain tailgate all the time, and all they ever had was Coors. So like, the silver bullet, baby. So like that. So when I look at like when I think about tailgating at Notre Dame, like that's automatically what I think about. Because that's the whole beggars can't be choosers when you're a poor college kid. You drink what they got, man. Like that's how that works.
Yes. Yeah, we used to Miller Lite was ours around here for whatever reason. It was the cheap light beer that you would get. So I don't really go. Yeah, if I'm drinking, I don't really go beer. I usually go for whiskey. So that's me.
Yeah. So game. This one's interesting. When we would tailgate for games when I was a student, it didn't matter who they were playing. Like that was not.
No, I mean, if we're talking about this year, it's Notre Dame, Ohio State, right? At Notre Dame.
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. Because that's also a night game. So you're going to be tailgating for like 12 hours straight because it was, because you start off with kegs and eggs and then you kind of move into, the next, it's an all day affair. So yeah, Ohio State would definitely be the one for this year. No doubt about that. What is it? Oh, the dead celebrity.
Dead celebrity? I don't know if that one's kind of weird.
Who do I want to be at a tailgate with? Like that's that's a very odd surrounding to be hanging with a dead celebrity.
It has to be somebody. I mean, it has to be someone sports related, right?
Yes,
that would enjoy the environment and everything.
Can I show Newt Rockne around? Be like, hey, this is what Notre Dame has turned into.
That's what you do, yeah, man. Do that.
Share a rum and Coke together.
Man, I'm gonna steal one from earlier. Paul Horning.
There you go.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually don't know though. I need to think more about that. Vince Lombardi, bring him back. I don't know.
Yeah, right. But it had to be somebody that you would enjoy like the game with. You know what I mean? Like, so I feel like it has to be somebody either affiliated with Notre Dame or Ohio State. So yeah, I don't know. It's a loaded question. There's a lot going on there. All I know is I'm going to have a full belly of fried chicken and mac and cheese, so I'll be happy.
Man, I'm a big mac and cheese guy. Vince,
we need to talk to Brian about his tailgate menu.
Are you a baked mac and cheese guy?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Okay, so you got the breadcrumb on top.
Love that. Love a little texture in there. Like, that.
I'm correct with that, man. I love it. Yes,
so good.
Sir. Yes, sir. All right, let's go to another question. Ty Smith's trying to get me fired, so I'm going to uncheck this question about asking Coach Freeman to run the triple option or something. Number one Notre Dame fan had a couple here.
Okay, do we reach a point in football's evolution where NFL teams have goal line backs and otherwise use a Deebo Samuel-esque wide receiver at running back, otherwise to maximize roster spots and passing game success?
I think I don't think it's quite to that level to me as far as I don't think it's quite to that level as far as a dependency on the position. I still think that running backs, there's going to be a stable for me, number one Notre Dame fan. But I think that the line between wide receiver, running back is getting blurred in some instances.
Sure.
And that's Deebo Samuels of the world. That's the Percy Harvins of the world. Those guys that can do a little bit of spot duty, the Cordarrelle Pattersons of the world. Guys that can give you something from a running perspective, but I don't think that's necessarily going to supplement the running back position. You're still going to have true running backs. Those guys that we're talking about, the Deebo Samuels of the world, the Cordarrelle Pattersons, they're technically still wide receivers on the roster. So you're not taking away from the number on the roster. I just think roles are getting a little bit blurred. So I understand the question. I just think that it's not quite to that extreme in my opinion.
Sure. That's fair. I like it.
Had another question from number one Notre Dame fan.
All right. Given the state of running backs in the NFL, do we see natural running backs eventually few and far between with Deebo Samuel?
This is the same question. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like,
sounds very familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
They say K with the question.
Okay, very good. Assuming Notre Dame is winning big in the first 3 games, do you expect to see Minchie in the second half? Well, that's assuming that Minchie's the second quarterback.
Right.
And could that happen? Yes, of course. If it does happen, then yes, I do see him playing not the entire second half, I don't think. Now, the only way that would happen is if Tennessee State, they're up by like 45 in the first half or something ridiculous like that. I've always kind of subscribed to the theory of the starters get the first half and then they get the first possession of the second half. And if it's ridiculous at that point, okay, now you're going to sub. But it's whoever the second quarterback is going to be. That's who's going to get the playing time. So if it's Minchie, then yeah. If it's Angeli, then yeah.
I think it's a flawed mission if you are winning the first 3 games handedly, where you're in backup time in the fourth quarter in each game, where Kenny Minchie doesn't at least get a little bit of PT.
Sure.
I think you are. Because yes, Steve needs to play. But I also think that Kenny needs to play because there's no foregone conclusion for me unless, I guess we can, there could be a world where Steve Angeli is just the unquestioned second quarterback on the roster and it's just like not even close. But I just don't see that happening where one guy is just so far ahead that it's not even a conversation piece. So I would want both those guys to get a little bit of playing time, a little bit.
Like it.
Great question, Basic K. We had a question from Notre Dame Cheat Sheet.
Pick one true freshman who could contribute right away at defensive line, linebacker, and DB.
I'm sure we're going to do like some surprise picks, I'm sure at some point this offseason, but my defensive lineman, Vince, is Armel Mukam.
Okay.
I've heard some great things about Armel. He is up to 265, 270 pounds. He is physical, and he's a very smart and understands limitations and understands strengths. And I think he has a good head on his shoulders as well. So I think he'll be ready to play if he's needed to play. Armel Mukam at D-line. Linebacker, Drake Bowen would be my pick. Jane Osbury is a conversation there too, but I think Drake has a chance to play a little bit at Mike potentially this year. Probably more in some spot duty, mop-up duty more than anything, but I think he has a chance.
Okay.
DB.
This one's easy to me.
Would it be Ben Minich?
I would say Christian Gray.
Christian Gray? Good.
For me. Yeah. But it's a depth chart thing, right? And so depending on what happens at safety, my bold prediction was that Ben Minich was going to be the 4th safety. So, if he's second behind one of the safeties, he's going to play probably more than Christian Gray because is he going to be the 4th corner? That remains to be seen, obviously. He's a possible, sure. But I feel like Christian Gray has more guys to climb over. So maybe it is Minich because he said DB, not corner or safety specifically.
Yeah, it could be Ben. The other wild card is Micah Bell as some type of punt returner or on special teams. I could see him carving out some type of role there potentially.
Yep.
So he's fast. He's very, very fast. So next question is from Notre Dame, number 1 Notre Dame fan.
How many Sam Hartman rushing touchdowns do you predict for 2023?
He's had a season where he had like 10. I'm going to say 4. 4 is the number here because I think that he'll still have a few, but I think that Notre Dame is going to be a much better rushing team than what Wake Forest was. So I think that, his 10 rushing touchdowns one year for Wake Forest was out of necessity. And I think that looking at that, Audric and those guys are going to take some away for me.
I would say that I'm going to go a little higher. I'll say 5.
Okay.
but that's because I feel like he's going to be the third or fourth option on the goal line. And sometimes that can work out in your favor. You know what I mean? Like people are going to be loading the box to stop Audric or whoever is in the backfield. And then they're going to, bracket maybe the big wide receivers, whether that's Merriweather or Thomas or Colsey or whatever. And I think they're going to forget about Sam Hartman at times. You know what I mean? And so I think he could sneak a few in. And if it's 5, that means like what? 1 every 3 games, essentially, or 1 every 2.5 games. I can definitely see that.
Next question from Notre Dame Cheat Sheet.
All right. What 2 teams that rarely play each other would you guys like to see match up more?
Notre Dame and Michigan. Easy. They don't play at all anymore. I want to see it.
Yeah, that's okay. Let's see here.
Come on, man.
Let's see. Teams that don't play very often. I mean,
Thinking like state stuff, like
yeah. I mean, there's really no team necessarily that I would want Notre Dame to play more. There's definitely teams I would want Notre Dame to play less. Stanford comes to mind. I would love to replace them with truly anybody.
Truly,
yeah. So this is a hard one. Somebody said Texas and Nebraska, Notre Dame, Penn State, Alabama, Ohio State. Okay,
Alabama, Ohio State
be
good
ones. Those are all good ones. I don't want to play LSU like that.
Penn State doesn't hit.
Yeah, that doesn't excite me in any way. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really care that much. There's not really anything out there because it used to be like college football used to be very regional, and it's definitely morphed to not be that way. So like I feel like teams play all kinds of other teams now. There's no like dream matchup that never happens because they play all the time. So yeah, doesn't really do much for me.
Notre Dame, Penn State. Does that get you excited a little bit? I think that's kind of.
It could be because Penn State's, I think, better than they've been the last few years potentially, right? And I think that would be a big game. I wouldn't mind seeing Notre Dame go to Penn State and a whiteout. That whole thing. Like
that'd be dope. Yeah,
that would be a bucket list thing for me. I would enjoy going to Happy Valley and seeing a whiteout if it's against Notre Dame.
That's fair.
I don't think I want to see a whiteout against anybody else. You know what I mean? Like. Yeah,
I kind of do want to just see a whiteout, though. I think that'd be kind of cool.
It's a big stadium, and that would be really cool to see. Like, it'd be the one game where I can't wear all my white like I like to, so I'd have to pick something else.
Yeah.
Ryan, how do you feel about Sam Howell being the starter for the Commanders?
I liked Sam coming out a decent amount. I had a late second, early third round grade on him. He went in the 5th round. He fell a little bit. I think that Sam is going to do a pretty good job in Washington, in my opinion. I'm a little in between Ty if I think that it's going to be enough that you completely forget about quarterback in the offseason, depending on the situation that you're in. But I think he's good. I think he has some weapons around him. I like Terry McLaurin. I like Jahan Dotson. You got a couple good running backs. You have a decent offensive line, not as good as it once was a couple years ago, but it's still okay. So I think that Sam Howell is going to put up some decent numbers this year. I do.
Cool.
He's a tough player, man. He's a tough kid.
Absolutely.
Tyler Evans with another super chat. Thank you, Tyler.
All right, Tyler. Thank you very much. Fellas, in your opinion, is there a team this upcoming season that's getting overrated and one team that's getting underrated?
There's a lot, man. Overrated. I think LSU is being overrated just a tad bit, man. Like I'm seeing all these people just like the foregone conclusion that they're going to be the top of their side of the bracket in the SEC over Alabama. And I'm just like, guys, like I get it, but like take it back a second. I think LSU overachieved a little bit last year. Let's see if they are really that consistently of good of a team. Sure. I actually like what Brian Kelly did in year 1. I think he did a pretty dang good job with the roster they give.
They overachieved. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I hate to say it. I hate to give due where it's at, but he overachieved. And if it wasn't for some terrible special teams gaffes, they do even better than they did last year.
But is it sustainable? Is my question. That's my biggest thing.
Absolutely the key. I think Texas is a little bit overrated. We went through Texas's schedule the other day on IB Nation Sports Talk, and we came up with like 9 wins. And that was with one being kind of a 50-50. So they could be 8 potentially. We just gave them the win. Vegas has them at 9.5 as the over-under. So we took the under. But there's some losable games in there for Texas. And until they prove it, I'm not convinced that Texas is Texas. You know what I mean? Right. So I think they're they're top 10 rated type team right now. I just don't see them being a top 10 team.
I think I've seen a couple that have like University of Washington outside the top 10. I think Washington's going to be a really good team this year. So I'd say they're my underrated team, I guess, to fill out this one.
Okay. I'm trying to think of underrated. Can I say Notre Dame? They're clearly underrated. So I'll go there.
Let's do that. Good question, though. And thank you again for the super chats. Number one ND fan had a lot of questions today. Here we go.
Yeah, no doubt. With the Open currently going on, that's golf. Which Notre Dame player wins a roster golf event? May ask BK for tips.
I have an answer here.
Do you really?
Vince? Yes, because I happen to have gotten to know some recruits, obviously.
Okay.
Sullivan Absher, freshman offensive lineman, apparently is a very good golfer.
Okay.
Very good golfer. So he would be my pick.
Okay, cool.
I'm sure Sam Hartman's a quarterback, so I'm sure he could golf.
He said that he was going to go golfing this summer and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, if it's on his agenda of things to do, he's got to be a decent golfer, I would think. So, yeah, but I don't – it's always somebody that you don't expect.
Yes.
He's usually a pretty good golfer. Exactly. Yeah. So, I'm not in any way surprised by that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember talking to his dad down in San Antonio, and he was telling me he's like a scratch golfer. I was like,
wow.
Oh, nice. Interesting.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Number one ND fan. This might be his last question, I think.
Which Power 5 team do you think about the least?
It's a great question. Power 5 that I think about this is my actual answer. Every time I talk about the Pac-12 and the depth of it, I always forget to include Utah, even though they've won 2 straight Pac-12 championships.
Because they're new, but they're still new. They're not. You don't think of them being a Pac-12 team or Pac-10 or whatever they are.
But I just think that I think for me, it's just that Utah is just kind of that gritty, good football team that it just isn't sexy, right? So it's like I just forget about them all the time, and I feel bad because they play really good football. But I always forget about them, man. I always forget about them.
There's a lot of Pac-12 teams that I forget about, if I'm being honest. Like the lower half, the Arizonas, I
was watching Big 12 Media Day, and like the University of Houston is a Big 12 team now. I'm just like, I'm going to forget about that pretty quick.
Trying to think about Cincinnati being in the Big 12, like that's weird all by itself, or UCF, or or whatever that, I always forget which Florida is it USF, UCF? It's one of the U space Fs. I don't remember who's in
one
the
of the Florida
now.
Schools.
So there you go. I already forgot about one of them.
UCF is the one you're thinking.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I can't say anything about the ACC because Notre Dame plays all the ACC teams at one point or another over, a span of years. So I can't say anybody in there. The SEC, all you ever hear about is the SEC. So I don't forget about any of them. I don't forget about any of the Big Ten teams, although if I was going to forget about one of them, it would probably be Maryland. Don't think about them very often. And it's always like, oh, Ohio State's playing Maryland. Well, that's a W. That kind of a thing. So the new teams in the Big 12 would be my answer. And then the bottom feeders of the Pac-12 would be the ones that I don't think about.
Love it. Love it. Yeah, there's a lot, actually, now that I think about it, which is kind of funny.
I know, right?
I think we're coming down to the last couple here, Vince.
All right.
It seems. Insured by Big has a question.
Okay. Ryan, how did your fandom of Notre Dame start since you're from Jersey? As always, love the show. Go Tigers. He's our resident LSU fan with the stupid X thing. I'm just kidding, but we appreciate you being in here.
My fandom started pretty simple. So I'm a Rams fan from an NFL perspective because my mom was a Rams fan. My dad was a Dolphins fan. Greatest Show on Turf was one of my first memories as far as being a fan. And so I just stuck with the Rams for my life entirety, which was very difficult during the Scott Linehan years and some others. But it's done okay. Still 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime, which is cool. Notre Dame, I never had a choice, to be honest, insured. Like my dad is a diehard Notre Dame fan, always has been. And I don't ever remember a time where I wasn't a Notre Dame fan. Like I just don't remember, it was, I've always gravitated a lot more to college football than NFL too. Like I like NFL football, but college football has always been my jam.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yep.
Just I didn't have a choice. Long story short, didn't have a choice.
Fair enough. I love it.
Archer with the last, 2 questions left.
Okay. The Bengals won 5 playoff games in their 53 seasons before Burrow. They've won 5 in 3 seasons with him. Which quarterback will be the next to transform an NFL franchise?
Trevor Lawrence is my pick. And we saw a little bit of it in year 2 with Jacksonville. Jacksonville, I think, was struggling with the first year under Urban Meyer. And getting Doug Peterson in, I think, was big time for them. And I think for me, Trevor Lawrence has a chance to go on a little bit of a run with the Jaguars because I think they are an improving football team. So give me Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, that's a good one right there. And it's hard to predict like who's going to go where. And so I would definitely stick with people that are already where they're at.
Yep.
And it's hard to go away from like a Trevor Lawrence. You know what I mean? Because I think they're on the rise for sure. I mean, they made the playoffs last year, made a run.
Yep.
I mean, they look good down the stretch. And if they can keep it going, that's going to be kind of a fun team to watch.
Yeah.
And I agree with number 1 ND fan. It's not Justin Fields.
Oh,
sorry.
Justin Fields. Oh, yeah, I forgot about a lot of Chicago Bears fans in here.
There are, and I'm one of them, and it's not Justin Fields. Like franchise altering. Like, no. Can he win more games than they won last year? Sure, but yeah, not franchise altering.
Franchise altering is a big statement, obviously. Like you're talking about like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL if you're talking about altering a franchise. So last question, Vince. Brent Smith.
All right. How do you fellas feel about the Brock Purdy and Trey Lance situation? Now, is there more going on here than just them competing to play?
It's just weird because, obviously Brock Purdy's coming back from the injury. The timeline's been kind of back and forth a little bit. And then I keep talking about traded Trey Lance now, but it's not coming from the organization. It's coming from outside noise.
Okay.
I honestly, Brent, I don't know what to think about it. I don't want to say I would bet on Trey Lance. I still am optimistic that Trey Lance can figure it out because he's still young and incredibly talented. And I do like any quarterback that's working under Kyle Shanahan because that offense is just so quarterback friendly. But it's hard to discount that Brock Purdy regulated that team down the stretch and he played really good football.
He did.
So it's going to be a battle. Like I'm interested to see how that one finishes this year.
If Brock Purdy can be a consistent starter in the NFL, then so can Sam Hartman. How about that?
Yeah. Brock Purdy was very, very turnover prone at Iowa State his last couple of years. I did like him a little bit early in his career, but he fizzled.
Sure.
But
yeah,
he landed in the perfect spot, man.
No, and that's the key, right? Like that is the absolute key. You've got to land in the right spot. You have to.
Yep. No doubt about it. All right. I think that will do it, Vince. I think we're done.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us on the Friday Free for All mailbag. Really appreciate it. It's always fun. It's my favorite day of the week. I love the questions that you guys drive home and have some fun with us. So make sure you make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that notification bell. Brian and I have a show tomorrow at 1:00, and we're going to break down the tight ends, which is the final position group of the season, because next week is practice week. The season is officially upon us. Wednesday, we get to go to practice. And so you will all be inundated with our observations from practice on Wednesday morning. And then we get, I want to say off the top of my head, we get practice Wednesday morning. We get practice Thursday morning. We get practice Friday morning. Like, bam, bam, bam. Thank you, ma'am. We're going to have some fun going to Notre Dame practice. And we'll be in prime position to tell you guys all about it. So make sure you tune in tonight at 5:00. So it's about an hour and a half. So you got about 90 minutes to, make yourself a snack, watch a little TV. I'm going to go watch an episode of Friday Night Lights. So, do what you got to do. Come on back. It's rapid fire night with Sean Stiers, myself. I think Jesse Stiers is going to be there as well. There's some really good questions in there. So I highly suggest you join us at 5:00. And then again, like I said, hit that notification bell because you never know when we're going to have a show. We're 50-50 on having a show on Sunday, and you're not going to know unless you hit that notification bell, folks. So we'll see what happens. So thanks again for joining us on the Irish Breakdown podcast. For Ryan, I'm Vince, and we will talk to you next time.